Good evening, and welcome to the Council Advisory Committee CAC meeting of March 11th, 2024. The meeting is being live streamed on the Town of Kentville YouTube channel, and the most up-to-date meeting package is on the Town of Kentville website. This meeting is called to order. Have all of the councillors received and reviewed their meeting package? Does any member of council have information pertaining to a matter before this council which has not been publicly circulated? As the Council Advisory Committee, CAC, we will vote as a committee to either send business forward to the council meeting for ratification, return to staff for further information or review, or defeat the recommendation. Members of council should be mindful of our decision-making wheel to make balanced and respectful decisions while adhering to our code of conduct. The chair notes that we do have quorum. You have been provided with a proposed agenda. CAO, do you have any changes to the agenda?
No, I don't, Your Worship.
Thank you. Are there any further additions or deletions to the agenda? None? All right. I will accept a motion to adopt the agenda. So moved. Thank you. Councillor Zavian for the second. Deputy Mayor, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. The minutes of the 12th of February 2024 CAC meeting have been distributed for approval. If there are no changes, the minutes are approved as distributed. If there are changes, the recording secretary will annotate those and add them to the file in red. No changes? Excellent. Moving right along. All right, we have two presentations this evening. The first is the KBC annual report, and Executive Director Genevieve Allen-Hearn will be making that presentation. Genevieve, I know that we typically limit you to 10 minutes, but I realize you've got a lot of information to cover, and so we'll give you a little leeway on the other side of that. And you can start at any time.
Apologize for the rapid pace of my presentation this evening. The greatest challenge of my position is condensing a whole year's of work into 10 minutes to present for council. So I'm just going to. Is this how it should be, or do you want? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's a PDF document. Okay. You can go full screen. Can I?
You can raise that. No, the whole table.
Oh, table higher?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
How fancy
That's
is
great.
that?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is my fourth time presenting for this council. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. And I am going to just go through some things really quickly because this will be material that you've already seen for a number of years. And then I really want to get into some of the highlights that we have accomplished this year. So you are all familiar with our mission and strategic pillars by now. If you need a refresher, this is all on our website. I'm not going to spend much time on that. For our expenses, this is fairly typical. You see usually a third of our expenses spent on personnel and operations, a third on the facade program and seasonal decor grants, and about a third on events and placemaking projects and marketing. This is what we've seen for 4 years now. And our revenue, again, this is typical. The core stream of revenue is our economic development levy that we get through the town, and then we stretch that out through grants and sponsorships and other streams of revenue. You will notice that the grant piece of pie is a little bit smaller this year compared to last year, and that's because there were a lot of post-COVID recovery program grants that we could access last year that are no longer available. So this spring we enrolled our Makers and Change Makers campaign. So this was a campaign where we were kind of using the spirit of this We Are Kentville hashtag, which is essentially about how the business community is about its people. And we want to highlight the work of the people doing good things in our town. And so this campaign involved banners throughout the town. It has social media posts telling stories, and then also a video, which I will not show to you this evening because I'm sure you've all seen already. But this video we shared across Atlantic Canada, and it received over 700,000 impressions and nearly 4,000 views, past 25%. So it had a lot of engagement. It was a great way of kind of pulling back the curtain to show you what people were doing behind the scenes, our organizational leaders and our business owners, and kind of give you a glimpse of life behind the counter. We also launched a Kentville mural map. This is an interactive map that you can find on kentvilleMurals.ca. You can also access it through our webpage. You probably noticed that on International Women's Day, there was a post about the Sassy Pants mural, our mural of the red pants. And it got so much engagement because people said, oh, I finally know the story behind this mural. It's so much more meaningful now. Well, that's what this mural map is about. It tells the stories of the murals. And you may not know this, but the purpose of the Kentville Mural Festival is about storytelling. So our judges, or the jury that selects the art, they're not selecting the prettiest art necessarily. They're selecting the art that tells a story about our town and our community. And so you can access this mural map through the QR codes that are on every single mural. There's a little plaque on every mural, and then it can take you on this walking tour of all the outdoor murals in our town. We had 2 major facade improvements this year, Valley Stove and Cycle and Oats, and there is one earmarked for this spring at 437 Main Street where Taco Centric is moving in. So we did spend our entire facade program budget. This is a great, has a great impact on our streetscaping and a worthwhile project. Lots of event highlights to discuss, and I just want to touch on a few. We had a really fun activation when the Barbie movie came out. We had our Barbie queue in Kentville, and people really got into it, and we had the cutest winners that got a Barbie camper van for doing a pose in front of our floral wall. This middle picture is the Canada Cup night market. So this was a great example of how when we have rec programming in town, the business community can help to draw those participants and those observers into town. So typically people don't stay in town because accommodations are not here. And so once they're finished their race, then they might get in their car and go to New Minas or to Wolfville. And so we said, well, how can we get them into the business community and stick around in the evening? So we had a night market that was a big success. There's a picture there of our mural festival. We produced 5 murals this year. A picture of Holidays that continues to be a huge success. We had thousands of people in our center square after the tree lighting, and we tied that into a late night shopping party where many of our businesses stay open late. And new this year, we've had a pumpkin palette pleaser for a number of years where restaurants and cafes have a pumpkin feature during our Pumpkin People Festival. But this year, we brought all of those desserts to the Harvest Festival, and we had a panel of judges, and we had a fun dessert competition. That was also a way for people at the festival to see the desserts and kind of choose what they want to try. And then afterwards, we had a pie eating contest, because why not? All right. One really exciting thing is that the Kentville Multicultural Festival came back this year after a 3-year hiatus. We have a really engaged and diverse planning committee, and they are ready to plan another festival, even though this festival was so challenging last year because we had it planned on a weekend where there was a hurricane, and then we rescheduled it for October, and it poured that morning, but still lots of people came out. It was a beautiful day. I am going to show you a video of it, but I'm going to wait until the very end of my presentation. Okay, so let's dig into communications a bit. This is by far the topic that we spend the most time discussing on the board. It's something that we want to drill down into about, like, how do we get businesses to engage? How do we make sure that all businesses hear what we have to offer? As you know, a couple years ago, we started the Welcome Package program. We printed 250 of these packages and brought them around to existing businesses in the general commercial districts, or C1 district. And now we continue to bring those welcome packages to new businesses as they arrive so that they know exactly what KBC is and offers. They see our strategic plan, they know about our hashtag, and they know our annual calendar of events. In the middle there, you see our connections, well, one member of our connections team. This is something new that the board started this year. They decided that one thing they'd like is for every business to see the eyeballs of a board member at least once during the year. So they're dividing up that general commercial district and making sure every business gets a visit from a board member. They're also planning KBC mingles throughout the year. We had our first in November, which was a big success. It's just a casual networking event where businesses can get to know each other. About 50 businesses came, so we're holding another one later this month. Finally, it has been a rough year for retail, and so some businesses have closed. This is not unique to Kentville. We're seeing it across the province, but something that we're implementing is an exit interview. So I have conducted about 5 exit interviews with businesses, and I'm asking them 3 questions: your reason for leaving, how you felt supported by KBC, and how perhaps you could have been more supported. This is giving us really valuable and rich feedback, and I've already been able to share this feedback with people who work at the town. All right, let's celebrate this We Are Kentville hashtag, because this is a hashtag that is absolutely working. You can see on Facebook, it has been shared 16,000 times, and on Instagram, 13.6 thousand times. I have a screenshot of some of the businesses that are using this hashtag. It's a really great way to connect with KBC, because what it does is give us a little nudge if you want your information shared. So this is just a screenshot of, when I was scrolling through Instagram, some of the businesses that are using this hashtag. I couldn't really do it on Facebook because they don't have this like grid image. But I counted about 13 or 14 businesses in these 3 images alone that are frequently using the hashtag. So it's a really great tool to use for communications. Also, our newsletter is a big success. I try not to inundate inboxes, so we send out a monthly newsletter in the beginning of the month. We have a 58 to 63% open rate. The industry standard for associations hovers around 36%, so we're almost doubling that. So this tells me that businesses are very engaged in Kentville, and we should be very proud of having such an engaged business community here. As you can see, 473 messages went out and 300 were opened, but what is interesting is that the total opens is 607, which tells me that businesses are opening it, scanning it, and then returning to it, because there is obviously information there that's valuable to them. Surveys is another tool we use. Again, I try not to use this too much. I know that there's survey fatigue with businesses, especially post-COVID. So I usually just use it if we're piloting something or if we're running an event with a small amount of participants. But again, we get a really good response rate, and it gives us really good feedback. All right, your annual reminder that having a business association in your town means we're also connected to a network of BIDs across Atlantic Canada. We're one of the only rural BIDs that has a membership with Downtown's Atlantic Canada, which means we go to their conference and we attend their monthly meetings. And then we have these opportunities to sometimes connect with political leaders. There's a picture of us with the Minister of Economic Development and some other BIDs across the province. So something that will be coming down the pike this year, something to look forward to, is that KBC will be embarking on a downtown strategic plan. So you know that there's lots of intersecting layers that contribute to our downtown, and what we really want to do is make sure that we are all working towards a common goal, and we know what we want our downtown to look like. What do we want it to be in 5 years? What do we want it to be in 10 years? So that all of these stakeholders can work together and be on the same page. I also have an announcement that Doug and I are both leaving KBC this year. Doug will be finished up the end of March. Doug is here, our communications coordinator. We are just so happy for him. He has a full-time position at Digby Area Tourism, so he'll be wrapping up soon. And he has just gone above and beyond his job description as a communications coordinator at KBC. And I will be leaving at the end of April, but I am still in Kentville, and I'll be participating in public life and hopefully in the strategic plan, just not in the ED capacity. I also just want to take a selfish moment to thank my board and all the volunteers on the committees as well. When you have a business association, you not only get personnel, but you get a whole ecosystem of volunteers. And these people put a tremendous amount of unpaid labor into the work that you see in Kentville. And so I want to thank them. There's such a huge support. I'm going to cry. Okay, so I want to end this presentation with a video of the Kentville Multicultural Festival. I've thrown a lot of numbers and stats your way, but I think it's also important to share those stories of community impact.
Hi, everyone. I'm not on the schedule, but I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Andrew White. I own the Cooperators here on Webster Street. I am your new president for the KBC for this year. I've got some big shoes to fill coming after Paul Dixon. But I just wanted to say quickly, extremely thankful for all the work that Genevieve and Doug have done over the last few years. I couldn't imagine having you here. It's going to be tough. So thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And the last thing I will say is this year is a strategic planning year for us. So we've executed the 4-year vision. We're coming to an end here in 2024. We've got a new strategic plan coming up for 2025. Your KBC board is invigorated, we're excited, and we are ready to move. So we really look forward to working with you guys over the next year and all the businesses in town. Please come out to our event on March 21st at the Business Hub, and we look forward to seeing everyone out there. So thank you.
we need to be available for questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So 17 minutes, 31 seconds. That wasn't bad at all with the video. So well done. That video was excellent. It brought back the day. The only thing was we couldn't smell the food cooking. So you'll have to improve on video for next time around. But otherwise, it was wonderful. So we do have some questions here. Councillor York.
Thank you. Not a question, just a comment. Thank you so much, Genevieve, and you, Doug, I see, for the tremendous effort you've put in since you've been here. I've had the privilege of working with you both behind the scenes, and I know how much blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of sweat, a few tears, has gone into absolutely every single one of the events that I've participated in, let alone all of the day-to-day minutia that happens with running a board like this. So thank you again for your time and your talent.
Thank you, Jillian.
Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. And I'm going to echo Councillor York for thanking all of you for all your hard work. I know that you've put a lot into it, but I do have two quick questions. Just on those financials you provided, I don't see any amount in your reserves. Do you know what that number is?
27,000.
Is it 20? How much?
Look under revenue. Cash reserves.
Is it there?
Yeah. Yeah, cash reserves at the end of this year will be around 33,200.
33,200. Okay.
Yeah.
And my other question, I know last year, just because you guys put on so many great events, and there was discussion, and there was a plan to have a comfort station downtown, and you had secured some funds, I think. Are those still on the table, or are those funds gone now? Have we lost the opportunity with
We've
those?
lost the opportunity.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Genevieve. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Board. When I look at your mission statement, creating a community that's supportive and welcoming, I've had the opportunity and the privilege, I would say, to sit on the board in an ex officio capacity. And what I have seen transpire over the last 4 years has been nothing short of incredible. When I look at all the community events that happens, when I look at the communications that go out and the inclusivity of all of it, I am just amazed. Genevieve, we will all miss you, and Doug, we will all miss you. And I'm very, very sorry to see you both leave, and I just thank you so much for all the input and all the good works that you've done for this beautiful town. So thank you for that. Thank you, Kate. Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, and I will echo all the thanks, and yes, we are going to miss you a lot. And I have seen a lot of positive change with KBC over the years, and so I'm very happy about that. But there is something that I need to mention, and we all received a letter from a business owner in the town who was critical of some of the things that were going on, and that's fine, and you know, and I expect that would be addressed. But then we got a letter addressing it, and I think the word was that these were unsubstantiated, and I find that when a person has a complaint, I think that we need to pay attention to that, and we need to do some research into that. And using a term such as unsubstantiated, to me, is very dismissive. And I feel that that business owner needs to, you know, sit down and have a conversation with KBC. And I really don't think that we should be being dismissive of it. And that's my point of view, but there are others around the table, and you don't have to respond to that.
No, I would.
Okay.
So I actually met with the business owner one-on-one, and I sat down with her for an hour. I did hear her concerns directly. There were some concerns in there that had actionable items that we needed to address, and they were addressed. You know, our most recent newsletter that went out, we added changes into it to address some of those concerns. But when we brought it back to the board as a whole, there were some accusations in there that were fairly unfair, especially regarding our staff members. And so as a board, a full board, We discussed those, and we have complete support for Genevieve and Doug as a whole. They would never do anything maliciously to try to hurt another business in town or to exclude somebody. We're trying to build an inclusive, welcoming KBC for all businesses, regardless of who you are. And so we felt that some of those concerns were just not fair.
And I'm glad that you sat down, and I'm glad that you had a discussion. And perhaps, I don't know the situation, but that could be chalked up to emotions and feeling hurt. And I'm hoping that the discussion ended with people feeling good about each other and nobody going away being hurt.
I hope so, too.
And I think that's the most important thing. I did have a couple of questions on your budget. The comfort station line was addressed. I don't know what a contract coordinator is.
Oh, yes.
And so
So-
I don't understand that.
So, before all of the changes with the staffing that was going on, our plan was to, bring on a full-time executive director. So right now, our executive director only works 20 hours plus week. Our communications director only works 10 hours a week. Maybe a little bit more than that. They work way more than that themselves. But on paper, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so the KBC board voted to institute some changes with as far as staffing goes. One of those being hiring a communications coordinator and events planner for 18 hours a week. So that way we understand the value that social media brings and our promotions and all that stuff to KBC and the rest of the businesses in town. So we wanted to increase the hours of somebody for that so we can really work for the businesses in town. And then as far as the executive director goes, the plan was to make it from a part-time position to a full-time position. And I think, as far as I know, we're still gonna try to do that. We do have enough cash reserves right now to enable us to fund ourselves for one more full year with a full-time staff member. And so we just gotta go out there and we gotta find the right person who really loves this town and wants to do great things. And I look forward to the opportunity of finding that person.
Great. And a couple other things. I don't understand travel if within the town of Kentville. I don't understand a line for travel.
What was it, like $100? It was to go to a
I
conference.
think it's 400 or something like that.
200.
How much was it?
200.
200, okay.
It was to go to a conference and to pick up a mural artist.
Okay, that's good. And meals and entertainment, again, I don't understand that. And
That's our volunteer appreciation events.
At your volunteer, okay, wonderful. And a line for board meeting and events at 500, I don't understand that.
That would be our KBC Mingles and our AGM.
Okay, so I just want to make the comment that we as a council did away with meals and providing meals and so on for our events like that. And that might be something that,
So the actuals
look
is
at.
361 this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so it just covers basically coffee and treats.
yeah, okay, but we did do that. And so, you know, if we have lunch and learns, we bring our own lunch, and that's kind of the way it's going. So it just something to throw out there to you. But I feel that, you know, you've done a fantastic job since several years ago. And I'm so happy to see the organization at the level that it is now. And I think it's wonderful. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right. You seem to have answered all the questions. Again, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. All right, moving on to our next presentation is the East Kings Community Health Board, and you do not look like a Michaela.
Close. Close. Michael.
Michael, welcome. And you can move that up and down, whatever works for you.
Thank you.
You break it, you bark it.
just give a moment for the musical chairs game here. So real quick introduction. My name is Michael Forsyth. I'm a registered nurse and a former engineer. I'm a proud Cape Bretoner, but I am very fortunate to reside in the town of Port Williams. I'm here representing our volunteer group of the East Kings Community Health Board. And I'm also currently a registered nurse at the Valley Regional. I hope I don't see anyone there, but if you ever do, come say hi. So for those of you that maybe don't know much about us, the East Kings Community Health Board, you might be familiar with some of the previous groups. There was formerly an Eastern Kings and a Western and a Central Kings. So there's been a little bit of a remerger in the last year and a bit, just to consolidate from 3 down to 2. So we are now the East Kings Community Health Board, and we represent from Wolfville right down to Cambridge and North and South Mountain. I'd also like to just quickly start with a land acknowledgement that I recognize that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and that this territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship. So for those that might not be familiar with what community health boards are, this is a good place to start. So we are a group of community volunteers that work together to impact the social determinants of health. So these are the socioeconomic conditions and resources available within our communities that allow our citizens to remain healthy and well. Keeping our communities healthy and well takes a lot more than just doctors and primary health care, which are getting a lot of the attention these days. It requires equitable access to all the things that allows us to stay healthy and well and prevent illness. So when we collectively take actions that address the structural and social determinants of health, we're taking cost-effective, proactive, upstream action and preventing these reactionary measures. We have a short video on the next slide that's going to talk a bit more. It's a good little illustration about exactly what upstream work is, but there's a couple pictures on the screen. On the left is some of our CHB members at our Christmas get-together at Church Brewing in Wolfville. And the picture on the right is from some of our grant awarding last year. I believe Becca might be in the crowd there. There you are. So I do have a video, and I'm hoping it's going to work. Oh, maybe not. Oops. I know we had audio on the last video, so that's half the troubleshooting. Okay.
You're standing on the edge of a river. All of a sudden, a flailing, drowning child comes floating by. Without thinking, you dive in, grab the child, and swim to shore. Before you can recover, another child comes floating by. So you dive in and rescue her as well. Then another child drifts into sight. And another, and another. Eventually, hopefully, some wise person will ask, who keeps chucking these kids in the river? Every time you have to clean up an environmental disaster. Every time a young person winds up in jail. Every time people have to take medications to make up for the fact that they couldn't afford good food. We're suffering from the results of downstream thinking. Thinking upstream means making smarter decisions about what kind of country we want. What better goal could Canada have than creating the conditions for all people to enjoy true health and experience physical, mental, and social well-being? It's the best way to measure our success, and upstream thinking is the way we get there. Help us make the mainstream look upstream. Visit us at thinkupstream.net to find out more.
So a little illustration video. We in the field and in research use a lot of terminology that the general public might not be familiar with, but when you illustrate this analogy of babies floating down the river, oh my God, save the babies, but then why are the babies falling in the river, is a good analogy, if you will, for a lot of these healthcare related events that we're currently witnessing. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so This slide shows basically every 5 years, community health boards from across Nova Scotia, including here in the Western Zone, carry out a province-wide survey of all of our residents to find out what Nova Scotians believe are needed to create and then sustain healthy communities. So as you can see on the slide here, this is the results of our most recent community health plan. So the survey here would have been done in 2018, the results coming out, and that identified where our focus areas were going to be for our 5-year period of 2019 ending in 2024. Mind you, this survey was done in 2018, so pre-COVID-19 pandemic, and specifically here in the Western Zone, the 4 target areas that our citizens told us were related to food security, housing, recreation and wellness, and community connection. And we can say pretty confidently in this room and anecdotally that a lot of these have just gotten exacerbated since that time. So we will be looking forward to seeing the results of our new one, which I'll touch on a little bit later. So all 4 of these areas are upstream social determinants of health. If you don't have access to food and housing, you're going to have a hard time protecting your health and staying out of our acute care health centers. So there's a couple snippets here from each of those 4 priority areas with a few quotes that came from some of our community members. So this first slide talks a little bit about that social connection and inclusion. In the blue on the lower left-hand corner, one person told us that we have a lot of folks who do not feel included in our community, and more needs to be done to welcome them and inform them of what services and groups are available and how they can access them. On the next slide, this one here is talking about recreation and wellness programs. So again, just to kind of capture one person's story, we need more recreational facilities which are affordable, funded programs which allow those on low income to be active without breaking their pocketbook. Next slide, another very big topic here in the Valley. We consider ourselves an agricultural hub related to food security. So again, one person who reached out to us said that if we had school healthy eating policies in all schools and collaboration between local growers, school programs, parents, teachers, and staffs, we could have free breakfast and affordable salad bar buffet that supports local farmers and school gardens. So again, all of this feedback came back in 2018. We know that some work has been done in these areas since then, and we know that there's still more to happen. Lastly, on the 4th topic of housing, one person told us that with kids it's hard. Some landlords won't take kids. Very hard time getting a place. I looked at a place that had 3 to 4 bedrooms and they said no small kids. Again, this is 2018. I think we all know stories about people that are struggling with housing at the present time. So to circle back to the 2019 to 2024 community health plan, we took the feedback that we heard from our community members, and that led to the formulation of this community health plan that was specifically targeted for the Western Zone. The feedback might have been slightly different based on your geography for the Central, the Northern, and the Eastern. So this is specifically the Western plan that was focused again on those 4 priority areas. So specifically coming back to us, what do we as community health boards do with this community health plan? So there's a few different things that we do as shown on the screen there. We provide wellness fund grants, we do advocacy, and we do community partnership. So a little bit more on that. We provide wellness fund grants to organizations that do projects that work to promote and improve those priority areas. We advocate for healthy public policy and government action. These are more targeting the structural or the root causes of some of these determinants of health. And finally, we form partnerships with community organizations to host events, create projects, bring people together to talk about and work on some of these topics. I really wanted to include a slide here that will drive it home for the folks in this room. So specifically, what has our community health board done for the local area of Kentville? So since 2019, the formulation of that most recent plan, we've awarded approximately $60,000 in wellness funds to projects either directly here in the town of Kentville or locally accessible to Kentville residents. So an example of some of those run by the town of Kentville itself, we've helped to fund community brunch, spring community outdoor series, community conversations, accessible equipment loan programs. Some of the projects that were run by local community groups, we helped fund some projects through the Open Arms, the VCLA, the Valley Community Learning Association, the Kings County Family Resource Center, and the Kings County Academy Parent-Teacher Association. So just to highlight that we as a community health board have provided a significant amount of funding directly to the residents of our community with the goal of increasing equitable health for all. So what do we do next? As I mentioned, our most recent community health plan that was conducted in 2018 that captured the 5-year period is just about to end at the end of the year. So we have recently started the surveying process again to canvass the population and kind of find out what our priority items are going to be for 2015 up to 2030. So on the picture here, we have done a lot of online survey, telephone survey, but for meeting some of those populations that might have difficulty with meeting some of those modes, we do some outreach group consultations as well. So just this past fall, we attended a Q&A kind of survey. It was actually what we called a World Cafe. So we had a few tables set up, invited members from the community to come join us at the VCLA location over on Oakdean. And we primarily talked about those 4 priorities from the previous year and see what people thought had been done in those areas and if there was any specific areas that hadn't been addressed that might have developed in the last couple of years. So we heard some really good feedback from community members directly, and that information will go in with the rest, and we'll do a qualitative and quantitative analysis. We'll find some common themes and boil it down and see how it compares to the previous, and that will dictate the work that we do in the coming 5 years. So what's next? We hope as a community health board that we understand that this is a 2024 being a year of a re-election later in the fall. So we wanted to come now, just kind of plant the bug, plant the seeds. Hopefully we'll come back in the fall following election to meet the new council, present, as I mentioned, that new community health plan we will have in the fall, and speak directly with council and coordinate how we plan to act on our community's priorities. Hopefully we can at that point come back maybe on like an annual basis, see how we can work together to better serve our communities. And that's pretty much all we have. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to come and chat. I will say I was a little intimidated. I didn't know how many people might be here, so it's really good to not speak directly to just council too, but other community members, to let them know that we're here and we're working for the people. Michaela Ogilvie is the coordinator for our community health board. So if anybody has any questions, either Michaela or I might be able to answer, or if not, we can certainly follow up at a later time. Any questions?
All right, Michael, thank you very much for that presentation. So one of the things that you said was coming back in the fall and presenting the health plan. So does that mean that a survey is being conducted now, a public survey is being conducted now, or has been conducted?
That's correct. It just wrapped up at the end of February, I believe. So we're kind of in the data synthesis stage right now, and those targeted priorities for each zone across Nova Scotia should probably come out in the fall by the fall at least, and then we can start sharing that within the province.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Councillor Maxwell, you have a question.
Not so much a question, just a comment. I want to thank the Eastern Health Board, Eastern Kings Health Board for, $60,000 worth of money towards wellness, and keeping people healthy in our area is awesome. And I really want to thank you for that. I think that's so important. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll certainly pass that along. I'll admit I'm a pretty new volunteer with our group just since September of the past fall. So there's a lot of other people that went into making that work happen, but I'll just make sure to pass that along. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for our presenter? No? All right then, Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the directors have provided their reports for council's review and will provide an update and receive questions from council. The reports will be presented and are part of the record of this meeting. Only items of new business arising from the reports will be taken for motion. And CAO, if you could introduce our department reports and recommendations.
Thank you, Your Worship. Wanda Matthews, Director of Finance, will be presenting the financial report first.
Everyone? Okay. So a few items I wanted to highlight in the report before we move into looking at the forecast and the financials for this year. I would comment that we are very pleased to now be at full staff complement as of March 25th.
Yes.
So, which is very exciting for us. So that will at least move us into the new fiscal year better positioned to be able to get the work done that needs to be done. I also wanted to highlight our uniform assessment values are identified there, and you can see that it is a 12.6% increase from last year. We also, our interim audit was conducted on February 22nd and 23rd. Our auditor met with staff and the audit committee during that time, and we are seeking opportunities to improve our process and create some efficiencies within the audit plan for the final year-end portion of the audit, which will begin late May or early June. From a capital budget point of view from 24-25, just for your information, we are continuing to refine the request priorities that have come in from programs and directors and looking at funding options this week, and we'll be having further dialogue with you later this month around the specifics of the capital budget for 24-25 through to 28-29. I have identified the anticipated spring debenture value, which ties into the capital report, which I will discuss in a moment. I also wanted to highlight that our tax levy, we are now at only 1.26% outstanding at the end of February. So last month, another 15% reduction in the amount of outstanding taxes, and we've identified current year versus prior years for you in the summary on that report. If we move into the statement of operations and forecast, I will highlight the changes from last month. We are 10/12 of the way through the year, which if we were straight line, we would expect about an 83% revenue or spend rate. You will notice that our overall results are 83.5, so that makes us feel pretty good. There are some ups and downs, but overall we are tracking about where we would be expecting. On the revenue side, I wanted to highlight, it's included in my report as well, the payments in lieu of taxes that we received from the federal government. We had submitted that report, and just today we did receive confirmation of payment. We were forecasting 387.9, and we expect payment of 435,000. We do have to take our area rates off for fire and hydrant, but it will be higher than what we had received last year, which will move us in a positive position and help with any year-end adjustments that might occur during audit purposes. We also, I will note that we have made no other changes to the forecast portion on the statement of operations other than, nothing else on the statement of operations for revenue. On the expenditure side, you may have noticed that the core program for police, the forecast has been reduced for them slightly. And that is due to the fact that we have many vacancies. We are using overtime, but our vacancies exceed the value that we're spending on overtime. So it is a positive thing from a financial point of view, but I'm sure we hear from a program operational point of view, it creates challenges. So we have highlighted a change there. We also have identified within planning and zoning that there are savings related to staffing positions, but we do have a contracted service, and there are some other contractual costs that are coming through there for regulatory compliance and legal matters, so that is driving those costs above. Therefore, we have increased that forecast. It doesn't change the overall bottom line that we're anticipating, but a little bit of movement on both of those programs. No other major adjustments. There are year-end values for public housing and for some of our other partners that we're unaware yet of what those impacts may be, so we're forecasting them at budget right now. So I had nothing else to add on the statement of operations with forecast. Would you
Let's go
like
for
to take
questions at this point.
Sure.
Council, are there any questions with regards to the report that the Director has just provided? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Director Matthews. And I feel like I asked about this last month, but I think I'm going to ask again because I need to understand it. So the outstanding tax receivable aging. So if I'm to understand that correctly, the 23-24, let's call it 149K. Of that 149K, the prior years are in there, the 21-35, the 15-23.
So 23-24 means that for the tax bills that we would have sent out related to this tax year, 23-24, this is the amount that we have left as of today that haven't been paid.
Okay,
22-23 would be for the tax year 22-23. People haven't paid that 22-23 tax bill yet, but only $1,523 worth
Right.
are remaining for the tax bills related to that fiscal year.
okay,
And then any year before that, it's only 2,000. So
Okay.
you'd have to add them all together to say the three together represent what's owing for taxes at this point in time related to those three individual tax years.
okay. So then perhaps a more appropriate question would be, this time last year, would we have been hovering around this 149, 150 mark?
We would have,
Okay,
yes.
okay,
And we did do a check just in looking at how much our tax rates, our tax assessment value went up and what our interest on our accounts would be, and it seems quite in line that
Okay.
it's mostly related to increased assessment values versus a number of more people
right,
not paying
okay.
taxes.
That's great. I promise not to ask it next month.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for.
All right, are there any further questions with regards to this report? None? All right, let's move on to your request.
Okay, so the only other point that I did want to make on the capital investment plan, if I might, is that you will see in, that's Appendix B, our project cost to date, 3.186 million. Our forecast has been reduced by about 85,000 over last month, just related to the Hiltz connector. We had thought we may be able to do a little more work, but we had $100,000 in there. It's now down to about 15. So that's the only change to that capital investment plan.
All
My
right,
apologies.
thank you.
And that concludes the full portion of the first part of my report.
Okay, moving on to your recommendation for low-income tax exemption.
Sure. So low-income tax exemption briefing has been provided. We have a past practice where we would, for those individuals that are within an income ceiling, we would provide a tax reduction for them. And in the past, we have aligned that with our old age security and guaranteed income supplement paid to married couples. So that would be kind of the value that people would be eligible around. I've noted in the background that our budget associated with this, along with section 69A, which would be if there's a destruction of property and we are making adjustments to taxes, that budget's around 10,000. Last year, overall, you'll see it's a little over 13,000 that we would have given out for those individual exemptions. Within the analysis portion of the report, you can see that for 23-24, our income ceiling was, using the same methodology, was a little over $1,000 less. Our exemption amounts are on a sliding scale, and that is from 290 to 620, and you can see 34 taxpayers were benefited from this exemption. I have included within that analysis some context. We are not suggesting to change the ceiling this year, but rather to change the threshold levels. So there were 4 threshold levels, and you can see that in the resolution itself. We had, last year it was for less than 12,000, for 12,000 to 16,000, then from $16,001 to 18,000, 18,001 to the ceiling. What we are recommending, just given the economic climate that we're in and with people feeling the pinch financially very much, that we would look to change the threshold so that we would say under 20,000 would be eligible for the highest amount, between 20,000 and 25, a mid-range, and then 25,000 to the ceiling, the lower range. So really trying to compress that scale and to increase the number of people that would benefit more. And I have provided those stats in the analysis of the number of households based on last year that would see an increase in their exemption value. Overall, the budgetary impact of that would be around $6,750 to get us up to last year's actual and then add on the increase for this year. So not a significant dollar value on $12,188,000 worth of a levy, but would be significant to those individuals who are seeking that exemption. So I do recommend to CAC that the attached resolution for low-income tax exemption for the 24-25 year be approved and forwarded to council for ratification. The exemption amount is being $385 to $640. The income ceiling at $31,732, and our deadline of applications would be the last working day of June 28th.
All right, thank you very much, Director Matthews. And if we take your recommendation and turn it into a motion, we would be asking that CAC recommend approval of the low-income tax exemption for the 24-25 year to council at the next council meeting on March 25th. And further, that the exemption amount be set between $385 to $640. And further, that the income ceiling be set at $31,732. And further, that the deadline for application be June 28, 2024. Councillor Maxwell for the move, thank you. Councillor Zabian for the second, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC recommends approval of the low-income tax exemption for the 24-25 year to council at the next council meeting on March 25th. And further, that the exemption amount be set between $385 to $640. And further, that the income ceiling be set at $31,732. And further, that the deadline for application be June 28, 2024. Is there any discussion on this matter? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Matthews, the income ceiling, the $31,732, is there anything, and I'm sorry I didn't go and look, but is there anything in the MGA under that section 69 that has a maximum income ceiling?
Not Not that I'm aware of, and I
Okay.
have provided the authorities section, and it
Yes.
does not give a maximum.
Okay,
We did.
so we can adjust that?
We
for-
can adjust.
Okay.
We did do a review of municipal websites to see where other people were, and most of the people we compare ourselves against would be between 28,000 and 38,000.
Okay.
But the dollar values that they reduce are less.
And so for folks to apply for this, or for them to become aware of this, do we put something out to people?
So for anyone who received the exemption last year, when their tax bill goes out in April, they will receive a copy of the exemption form
Okay.
automatically, and then it would be in our social media and feeds.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Wanda. Just a quick question. Everybody knows that their assessments, most people's assessments are going through the roof, even though probably these are capped. Do you get a view of what the actual savings are going to be with the increase of the threshold compared to probably what their assessments have gone up?
I wouldn't have each individual assessment, but I can say.
As a
no.
percentage on average, and you don't have to have it for me.
I don't
I'm
have it
just-
right now, but I could probably figure it out.
Okay.
Yep, I just have to look up into each individual assessment.
Yep.
But most people would be, many people would be receiving between 95 and 200 and some dollars more off their taxes.
Okay.
Yeah, on the most around 195 additional dollars.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions for the director on this matter? Are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval of the low-income tax exemption for the 24-25 year to council at the next council meeting on March 25th, and further that the exemption amount be set between $385 and $640, and further that the income ceiling be set at $31,732, and further that the deadline for application be June 28th, 2024. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship. We did not receive a formal written report from planning. I would like to take the opportunity just to inform council that we have finalized the job description for the Director of Planning position as discussed. I expect that will be circulated to council tomorrow, and we will be looking to advertise on Friday to begin the process. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank the Community and Economic Development Officer, Lindsay Young, Dave Bell, Director of, I was gonna say Finance, but we'll go with Engineering and Public Works, Wanda Matthews, the Director of Finance, and former interim CAO Louis Coutinot with his background in HR for helping to work through the process of developing that job description.
Thank you very much, CAO and council. If you have any questions with regards to planning or with this job description, you have the opportunity now to the CAO. No questions? They're letting you off easy.
I think they heard what they wanted to hear. So.
Okay, good.
So I would ask that Becca Craig, the Active Living Community Coordinator, present the Parks and Recreation Director's report.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, CAO, and the community for having me here tonight. And as CAO has mentioned, I'm here on behalf of the Parks and Recreation Department and hold the role of Active Living Community Coordinator. During the month of February for our CAC report, our department has worked on many projects pertaining to the admin operations of facilities, programs, and community outreach. And I'm just going to highlight a few of them and welcome any questions from council regarding any of the others. So the conditions assessment has been received. Staff have started reviewing the document, and the consultants will be presenting the findings and recommendations to council during a half-day workshop towards the end of April. The before and after program, also called Nature Kids, started in February and is up and running with 42 children playing outdoors during the after-school time period. The most recent activities have included giant bubble making and building boats to sail in the puddles. So we've also partnered with the Nova Scotia Parasport to offer a free 4-week boccia program, which is a Paralympic sport. It's happening actually as we speak down in the rec center. And registration is ongoing, so if there are community members who want to be involved, it's a 4-week program. And last week we had approximately 8 to 10 participants of all ages, skill levels, and abilities come out to play. This week is March break, and we have a lot of free activities taking place, including sock puppet making, free public skating, silly putty and volcano experiments, and a huge cardboard crafting event in partnership with Brilliant Labs. Today, our rock painting session, hosted by our very own Emily, intern here, had over 50 kiddos show up to join in the fun, and you can find the rest of our schedule on our Facebook page. And that concludes my CAC report.
All right, Becca, thank you very much. Great report for your first time standing up in front of council. We truly appreciate it. And I'll open the floor to council for any questions. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Becca. Just to clarify, the first thing that you talked about, was that the rink assessment?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
So they're gonna be coming back with something?
Yeah. The
Thank you.
report has been received and is being reviewed by staff.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Hi, Becca. Thanks for
Hi.
your report. The section there that you have on Miners Marsh about, and I knew that it had been closed several times due to the flooding in February. Do we know sort of what sort of damage has been done there, or sort of any cost estimates on fixing any damage that was done?
Right, thank you
Thank you.
so much for the question. Unfortunately, I don't have that information in hand at the moment. However, I can take it back to the team and get you that information.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor York.
Thank you. Hey, Becca, it's been a minute. Good to see you. The ravine, has there been an update from the federal government on the cleanup of that? I understand it's open, but like, still not, we haven't heard, if my understanding is correct, from the federal government in their role in the cleanup.
Again, unfortunately, I don't have that information in hand. I can take it back to the team, or I can pass it over to the CAO if he has any further information to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becca. I did have some discussions with the Director of Recreation, and federal agency has done what they will do for it.
Okay.
We're going to move forward with some third-party inspections to see what needs to be done as far as infrastructure improvements, and also some water testing in the area, just to make sure that it won't meet drinking water standards, but a standard that is safe for what would be water along a trail. So.
Thank you, CAO. So Becca, I do have a couple questions. We just had the presentation from the Community Health Board, and you talk about the free activities, and you also talked about our Nature Kids. So are any of those recipients of the funds that came to our department?
Are you speaking of the wellness funds?
Yes.
Yes, so the wellness funds haven't been a part of that allocation.
Okay.
Our funding has come through the provincial BAP initiative, the Before and After School Program initiative, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. And I also just wanted to mention on Friday, I saw Gren Jones at the event that I was at from Ducks Unlimited. And Gren always has kind of this amazing attitude about Miners Marsh. And he said there's been quite a bit of flooding in the marsh, hasn't there? He says, keeping the water out of people's basements. So, from a Ducks Unlimited perspective, they see that marsh as a place for that excess water to go. And I realize that it inconveniences us humans from a walking perspective, but I'm sure that for the folks that don't have water in their basements along there, it's quite a nice luxury to have in your backyard. So other than that, I think you've taken care of all the questions, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'll call on Director Bell to present the Engineering and Public Works. Oh, my apologies. Deputy Police Chief Ken Reed will present the police report.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, CAO, and Deputy Clerk. Uh-oh. It's not used to going that high, I guess. My understanding is you all have a report in front of you. I'll just pick out a couple of highlights. First off, Chief Smith sends his regrets. He's obviously sent me in his stead tonight, but he does send his regrets for not being here. Staffing is still our big issue, unfortunately. Hopefully, next police commission meeting will have some positive updates. Training continues to be big on our radar. Training started up again, and we're also looking at a few ways to, through an instructor level, to see if we can deliver the training more efficiently to the members. Our crisis navigator has been busy as usual, and our GIS member is quite busy right now as well. The only other thing I would touch on right off the bat is we had a promotional ceremony for, we promoted Sergeant David McDonald. David's been with us for, he's gonna kill me if I get it wrong, I think 17 years, and it was a well-earned promotion, and he's fitting in great. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
All right, thank you very much, Deputy Chief. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have one question, and that's with regards to attracting employees. How are you going about doing that? Like, is there different sort of creative things that the department is doing, or is it just very mainstream, or?
Sure, and I guess I'll rely on Councillor York and Councillor Gerard to pull me back in if I get too far off the police commission. But basically, we're using social media as much as we can. We've discussed some incentives to try and attract some members, and without getting off the weeds too much, I can say that it's starting to have some effect. We're starting to see some positive benefits from that.
That's great, thank you. I'm happy to hear that.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Deputy Chief, when does the next class of cadets graduate in PEI? So, like, are they potentials for us?
Yes.
Short answer, yeah.
The next class, there's currently a class ongoing right now. They are due to finish early summer.
Okay.
There will be another class starting January 2025, and my understanding is 2025 there will be two classes. So there'll be a winter class as well as a fall-ish class.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for that. Are there any further questions for the Deputy Chief? No? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
We'll try this one more time with Director Bell and the Engineering and Public Works report.
He is tall. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before I start my report for this month, I'd first of all like to welcome our newest employee, perhaps our newest employee in Town Hall, but certainly to my department, which was a department of one, essentially prior to, other than my Public Works crew, of course. We have 10 Public Works and two Water Commission. But tonight, Ahmad Kadri is here with us. I was away from the mic. Ahmad Kadri is with us, and many of you remember, I guess probably you all remember Ahmad from about 2 years ago. He was with us for a contract term, this time 2 years ago for 4 months or so, and Ahmad took a position at a neighboring municipality for the last couple of years, and we posted that position that was in the operating budget, and finally got it filled
I guess it would have been early in the new year, and Ahmad started just last week. So this is week 2, and he'll be a great addition. It's a full-time position. It'll be a great addition to our entire town hall staff and my department in particular. A great help to me, and you may see Ahmad here in my place sometime at a future council meeting if I'm away. But it's great to have him. He'll be working on capital projects as our project engineer on various things from capital to assisting with other operating things, compliance with environment, that sort of thing. So definitely will keep him busy and help me greatly. So with that, I'll move on to my report. As I usually do, start with the Water Commission. There were no direct operational issues with the Water Commission in February, and we have moved our Water Commission meeting to, I believe, the end of
First week of May.
first week of May. Thank you, Mayor Snow, to allow us to follow up with the town's operating and capital budgets. We'll move into Water Commission then. And similarly, there were no direct issues either with the Kentville sanitary sewer in service in February. Under Public Works, we have taken delivery, actually just today officially, of our long-awaited replacement plow and salt truck. Although we are approaching the end of our snow and ice control season, the crew are very happy to have a safe and reliable new truck in the fleet. The truck will be used in the fleet throughout the year as a dump truck as well on various pipe repair and material hauling projects. And just today, the manufacturer's rep was on site at Public Works providing training for the crew on this new equipment. Under projects, preliminary design is now underway on some upcoming capital projects that we will be discussing at our capital budget meeting next week. There were 2 particular projects that was asked to be reviewed tonight. One is an update to you all on the Donald E. Hiltz construction and the grants associated with that and its timeline. So as you are aware, the town applied for funding to install the underground portion of the infrastructure for the Donald E. Hiltz Connector Road from the current end of the road near Valley Waste in the Kentville Business Park to Prospect Avenue and replace the end-of-life water storage tank in the park. The federal and provincial funding program known as Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, or ISIP, that we applied for and were successful with carries a project cost of $9.733 million, of which is 73 1/3 funded by the feds, 40%, and the province 33 1/3. The project is proposed to be completed in 3 construction seasons starting this year. We would have started last year, but there were some other requirements to satisfy the grants with the Aboriginal consultation and archaeological research assessment. So those are now complete, so we can move on with the sort of the 3-year construction process starting this year and complete any deficiencies if required in the fourth year. The project is currently in the design stages with tendering expected late spring of '24. Below on your report, you'll see the cash flow summary submitted to the province for the current and next 4 fiscal years. So this current fiscal year, somewhere in the order when the year end comes of just $12,000. That was for the studies. But these next 3 years, ranging from 4.4 or 4.5 million this first year to 3.2 and a little over 2 in year 3, for a total project cost, as I mentioned, of 9.73 million. Keeping in mind, these are full project costs, and the town share is 26 2/3% of the above numbers. So you can see the math on the table as that breakdown is shown. I'm not sure if I should stop there with any questions or continue on with the report. Mayor Snow.
Continue on.
Okay. Moving on to an update on the Condon Avenue Stormwater Management Assessment Report. So I presented the summary of the findings of the consultant's letter report at December CAC, and the report has now been distributed to council and available to residents wishing to review it. The report included recommendations for the town to consider as we plan for future capital investments and funding opportunities. And they include, but are not limited to, again, presented these back in December, install a large 1.2 meter concrete storm pipe downstream of the Condon Avenue Park Street intersection across town-owned land towards the park shed and into the former railway ditch. This is proposed for the 24 construction season, pending budget approval. Item number 2 would be to improve the inlet structure at the top of Condon Avenue to increase the inlet capacity and allow for additional sediment accumulation. And this is also proposed for 2024. And the third recommendation was to place rock armor stone on sections of the watercourse upstream of Condon Avenue that were severely eroded from the August and September 23 rainstorms, also proposed for this construction season. The last item recommended would be to integrate stormwater management areas into the design of the Donald E. Hiltz Connector Road for upstream storage of this watershed, and this would be proposed to happen in the 2025 construction season. So I've had email and phone conversations with a few residents concerned that the new storm pipe proposed to discharge to the Harvest Moon Trail ditch might add additional water to the ditch and culvert system that flows to the current large outlet pipe at and then at West Main Street and then into the Cornwallis River. The existing Condon Avenue drainage system currently discharges to the south side of this drainage ditch along the trail system, and then easterly to the large storm system on West Main Street and then to the river. So as described in the report, the proposed pipe is larger than the existing pipe that discharges to the trail ditch between the pool and the tennis courts currently. The new location is approximately 500 feet west of the current location by the park shed or the senior baseball field. So the new location allows us to keep the grade more consistent on the pipe, that is, which is recommended by the engineers, and to help keep rocks and debris in suspension rather than falling out, which is what happens now in the current system, increasing the likelihood of blockages in the system with the many turns, manholes, and relatively flat grade of the smaller aged pipe. No additional water will be introduced into the trail drainage ditch that flows to the West Main culvert, and additional plans are underway for a stormwater detention management upstream of Condon near the yet-to-be-built Donald E. Hiltz Connector Road, further reducing the intensity of the runoff during large rain events and spreading the flow over a longer period of time. And that is my report.
All right, thank you very much for that report. Director Bell, are there any questions for the director? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you for that report, and I'm just going to ask for some clarification on some things. So the new storm pipe that's going closer to the works building or the
Park shed we call it, I guess.
It's going to come down that one instead of going down the little ditch by the Little League field and then into the trail, the south side of the ditch and the trail. Is that right?
Correct. Still ends up in the south ditch of the trail, but
Yeah.
just farther to the west, behind
So
the park
it's still
shed.
going to end up in that ditch.
Yeah, there's no other, it has to go to the river, and that's the only outlet to the river. It goes there now, and it will continue to go there.
Okay, before that, did it go into the north ditch? Is that why we had trouble, or, because there is a north ditch there?
There is a north ditch more in behind the properties, the homeowners
Right,
that live
right.
along
Closer to
West
the
Main.
homeowners.
No, it crosses over from the south side to the north side, down near the head wall at the West Main, where the
Right, I know where that big grate is.
where the
or
grade
whatever.
is, but
So
that's where there's two pipes under the trail that cross from the south side to the north, and then into that head wall system that goes under West Main, and then ultimately to the river.
Okay, so there would be some water going into that ditch,
Just at the head wall.
just at the head wall.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. It's not going to come past the pool and the tennis courts and the minor league ball field.
On the south side.
On the south side. It
They'll
is
stay
going there.
On the south side, where it is there, I mean, it's there now, but it does go into the system
Okay.
east of the pool.
So I was walking there the other day, and there's a lot of sand sediment in that course. I'm wondering, are we gonna, keep that dredged out, or are we gonna dig that ditch deeper?
It was, I believe it was 2 years ago, it could be 3 coming up this year, so I believe it was 2021, we definitely really dredged out,
Yeah.
particularly the south side. Originally it was said, oh, why is it ditch so deep? But we had to chase grade, it's so flat because it was a railway, and railways are
Flat.
very flat. So to start back at the head wall and then work west towards west, it took, the farther you go, the deeper the ditch got to carry grade. So as it became deeper, it also became a little wider. But yes, it does build up with sand and sediment, and it's an ongoing,
It'll be
it's a
ongoing.
recurring maintenance to always keep that ditch as clear as possible on the south side. North side as well. The north side is certainly the side that backs on many of the homes along West Main, and some of the residents, I'm sure, that are here tonight with those inquiries. But that side, there's always the potential for it to back up that ditch somewhat if the pipe can't handle it or the tide is in. When we have a high tide, and of course Cornwallis is tidal, and there's a check valve, a tide flex check valve on the end of that big pipe over by the railway bridge, we'll say, that crosses over towards Meadowview. That outlet can be submerged when the river is high and the tides are high and the moon is full and all those things. So at that time, there's the 2 storm pumps that are only meant to come on when the river is high and that check valve is shut. But that's when, of course, residents see it start to back up towards their homes and are obviously concerned
Okay,
about
right.
that.
And they, putting in the ponds or whatever up at the Donald Hills connector, putting in the storm controls up there, that should slow the water coming down the hill.
At least what's coming south of the Hilts Road, and then, of
Right.
course, it can still pick up steam again as it travels from the Hilts Road south to the to the head wall at the top of Condon, because that's still probably just shy of a kilometer, but it's still a large area.
Right.
North of the Hilts Road and south of Condon is still an area for it to gain speed. So that's why they're proposing, the consultants are to help rock line some of that disturbed area where the erosion really cut that ravine even deeper. These last few storms that we had in late summer, early fall, I guess, of 23.
Right, so that stormwater management will help with that.
Certainly, yeah.
Let's
Not
do
sure
that.
there'll be ponds or underground storage.
Whatever we do.
The design is still ongoing, yeah.
Okay, and then if there was, at some point in time, development up there, there would have to be more stormwater management controls put in, is that correct?
Absolutely, depending on, if there's development, commercial or residential on the south side of the Hilts Road, they have to adhere to the same rules of net zero impact, so they have to maintain that on any developments on the south side.
So that would help again
Correct.
to slow down the water coming down through that area.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and so if there was no development there, the only slowing we're gonna get is what we put in, basically at the Donald Hills connector.
From the road and then the path on a few spots within the we'll call it the gorge, but the runoff area of upstream of Condon, correct?
Right.
Yep.
So with development, we could slow it down even more.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Director Bell. I just had a question about the design point report that was done. So when they talk about the pipe network downstream of Condon Avenue not having adequate capacity to handle the peak flows, at the time when that was done, I know that used their high-density polyethylene pipes. So if reinforced concrete pipes were used at the time, would that have mattered? Or is it just was it enough to handle the flow at that juncture and just isn't now because more rain, or that's kind of a long question, but.
I think I understand your question,
Yeah, thank
Deputy
you.
Mayor, and through the chair. The part we're talking about replacing is not what's on Condon and high density. That pipe is going to stay in place, and it's there, and it's adequately sized.
Okay.
It's the pipe that is 50 years old that runs along the sidewalk, behind the sidewalk of Park Street, sort of from the Condon intersection to the east towards the Little League field, and then crosses over again under Park Street and under the Little League field by the tennis courts. That pipe is the original pipe from 50-plus years ago.
Right.
That's concrete pipe as well,
Okay,
but smaller diameter.
okay.
Smaller
Great.
diameter than what's on Condon that was replaced in 2019.
Okay, so anything that's underneath on Condon now is sufficient and will stay?
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Councillor York.
Thank you. So as we get these 1 in 100-year storms, sort of like 1 in every 10 weeks, it seemed last summer, have we done an assessment of all of the things that we have, like these pumps? Are they up and working in their top optimal condition so that we can be prepared and we are adequately prepared for when we might need that double layer backup or whatever with
Yep.
the rivers rising and things?
For sure. As you probably know, one pump did go out of service at the worst time last fall or late summer. That pump was pulled and sent for repair. It was gone for quite some time. The pump is back in and installed again in the wet well of the chamber over by the outlet just north of Shanix. And in our capital budget discussion, again, you'll see next week we are proposing to both those pumps are the same age. One has gone down due to mechanical electrical failure, been repaired at substantial cost, but it is still a 2008, so
Old.
yeah, 17-year-old pump, plus or minus. The pump has seen very few hours, but it's been, originally we used to remove the pump after every storm. That wasn't practical. That was its early days of 2008, 9, 10, in that range. Since then, for the most part, both pumps have been left in the pump chamber by the trail behind Shanix. But one of them failed. The other one is similar year. So we spent a fair bit of money repairing it. We had it assessed. The motor repair company said there's still useful life in the pump, and recommended spending the money because the replacement cost would be 3 to 4 times what the repair costs were. So that pump has been rebuilt, so now has a good useful life. We treated that as a capital investment because it gave us useful life back in that product. It's fair to believe that the other pump will need repairs in the future, so therefore that's why we're recommending ordering a third brand new pump in this year's capital investment program.
Thank you.
So that'll give us 3.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Your Worship. Director Bell, just so for my own, you said that the pipe at the top of Condon was adequate?
That's correct.
Doesn't, and maybe I'm reading this wrong, but doesn't the report say that the inlet pipe at the top of Condon Avenue is inadequate to handle peak
Inlet
loads?
structure. They want to enhance the structure, which is the head wall structure there at the top of the street, without naming properties, but you're familiar with where it is. Not the pipe, but the inlet structure. They recommend enhancing the sort of the depth and the shape of that structure, not changing the pipe.
Not changing the pipe.
Yeah, if I use the word pipe, I apologize, but it should say structure.
No,
Inlet structure, yeah.
I misunderstood.
Yeah.
When I read it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions for Director Bell? I think you've probably just given us a preview of our capital budget.
2 or 3 lines, that's all.
1.2, and then 3 line items. Looks like some good capital money there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, thank you very much, Director Bell.
Thank you.
So I'll present the CAO report next. Operations, I covered earlier the Director of Planning Services position and where that stands. I think Director Bell pretty much covered everything he's been trying to educate me on as far as stormwater in the town of Kentville. We've also been reviewing plans that go back as far as 1988 on stormwater, some of the floods of 2003. Director Bell and I have been scheduling meetings with residents that would like a one-on-one discussion, and we'll continue to do that. Director Matthews and myself have had a number of discussions on the operational budget and the underpinnings and the priorities. Looking forward to moving that forward in April. And then, being relatively new to the position, a lot of individuals have reached out to me. They just wanted to bring their concern to my attention and have a discussion, so I've been open to those discussions and scheduling those. Council related, been to a number of council meetings, committee meetings, discussions with individual councilors and collectively on a number of our issues. I think that we are starting to refine how our working relationship will be going forward. Enjoyed those discussions. Best practice for correspondence, I believe we're finally to an end on that, and pleased with the outcome. And then this month has been a lot of discussions with the executive leadership team to formalize the capital budget, which we'll be bringing to CAC next Monday night. Those are the overarching priorities. We'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you very much, CAO. Councillor Zabian.
Thank you. Through the chair, just question, CAO Lawrence, is there any update on the PACE program? I know West Hants is still rolling theirs out, and anything you can give, or not? You haven't caught up to that yet?
I haven't caught up to
Okay.
that yet.
Okay.
Hopefully, within the next month or so, I'll be
Okay.
up to speed.
Perfect, thank you.
Are there any further questions for the CAO? They're letting you off easy.
No, they're not. So I'll ask Alicia Christie, Housing and Communications Partnership Coordinator, to present the Housing and Community Partnership Report.
I feel like every time I make a joke about this, so I'm not going to do it to myself tonight. Just bring it down low. Good evening, folks, Council Mayor and our CAO and community members who are here this evening. Great to see you. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Alicia Christie. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm going to speak to our Housing and Community Partnerships report tonight. You folks have already received this, so we won't go detail by detail, but we'll do some high-level mentions, because why not? I do want to start and give a little shout out to the fact that similar to our rec department, we've also onboarded 2 community development fourth-year students who are completing their 6-week placement with us, one of which I think is still in the room. Yeah, Sadie is here this evening. I often find Sadie on the floor, so this doesn't surprise me. Sometimes our bodies need different things. And we also have Claire with us as well, who's not here this evening. Claire is working another position with Project Hope, if you're familiar with them in relation to housing as well. So it's great to have them. It's been super fun. So I wanted to give them a shout out and for all the contributions they're making to us. And this is also part of our partnership with the Homeless No More initiative. They're doing some work for them as well during their 6-week placement. To continue down the track of partnership with the Acadia Community Development Program, just on Friday, March 8th, we did host, I think it was, my number's off, it's 35 to 40, so somewhere's in that range. First year community development students here in Kentville. Lindsay hosted them as well last year, but focusing on business and economics in our community. This year, they were really, as a class, they were really interested in the issues of housing. So they reached out to us to do a full day in community where they'd be interviewing folks around hopes and dreams and needs from specific community group perspectives. So they had interviews with African Nova Scotian and Black communities, with Indigenous communities, with youth, what kind of ages 15 to 17, with seniors, with family groups, nurse practitioners, public health. We had folks from parks and active transportation perspective. They attended the accessibility strategic planning meeting on Friday as well. So all morning they were out in community, chatting with folks, and arts and culture, I guess, was one group as well. Many representations, and the really intent of it was for them to practice speaking to community and to practice bringing information back to us, which leads me into one of our council related, the second note on my report there, that in the April CAC, the students right now are working on a two-pager documents that mimics our staff council report as a practice for them from a governance practice perspective. So they'll be writing a report from their community group's perspective. So it might make your CAC report oddly long for April, but this is just so the students can practice bringing in reports, and you'll see they'll be focused. And a really fun part of Friday is after they had the interviews, we mimicked a community planning studio. So you might see those on university campuses filled with like computers and GIS systems. Ours, however, were drawn maps and Play-Doh and Lego. So very different because these students are not using GIS. So they will also include the photos of the maps that they dreamed up with community members, and they'll pinpoint any themes that we really saw coming up. I personally found it very fun to see what the students created. Great to see them kind of click in and play with Lego for a few hours, but then also critique it and give us an analysis of what community was asking for. Just some highlights before they're in front of us in April. It was really clear, a lot of mention around access to transportation, particularly transit and King's Transit, as well as space for cultural experiences. So I think having the Multicultural Fest and the work with KBC is a big part of that. So definitely looking forward to those reports in April, and the hope is that some students are going to actually be here to present and give an overview of what they heard in community. They will get extra points if they come. So hopefully that works out well for us. So my second council-related note there, I do want to reiterate to council and to community that the town of Kentville was not offered a contribution agreement through the federal government for the Housing Accelerator Fund. We're disappointed by this, but we still see opportunity, which is part of the next 2 pages of the reports, where I wanted to put in front of you other funding opportunities that we have, not only from a municipal perspective, what developers can access, as well as our community housing providers. So that's like a nonprofit housing provider. And this is not for the intent for you to know all of these. The intent is that you see the name, you just have one more point of connection with it. And I really tried to create under potential uses. You see a one-liner of this overall, here's what the fund is capable of, just this one-line moment. And so I just wanted to name that in case we bring any of these in front of you again. And the real core funders from a municipal perspective, there is a few avenues through FCM, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Of course, CMHC is still one of the largest funding availabilities, as that's through our federal funding opportunities, as well as the provincial government. And the two I really wanted to star under municipal funding opportunities is I do really see a lot of potential with FCM, and as staff we've set up a meeting with them at the end of the month just to better understand their opportunities and see where we might have some alignment in projects happening so that we can be ready for when the opportunities and funding comes available throughout Canada. Furthermore, the Provincial Municipal Innovation Program, in June of last year, we reached out to those program administrators with this intention of, does this program, can we apply it to housing projects? Is there opportunity within that? And they told us in 2024 that housing, even though they have other provincial funding avenues for housing, if we are taking an innovative approach in any way or partnership, that is an opportunity. That funding is best suited when you have joint applications. So for us, you do have to apply with a neighboring municipality. So Kings County is our core neighbor within that. So I just want to name that if Kings County was ever going down that avenue, we would be one of the potential partners for them. So could the town of Wolfville, etc. But that's a name. I just want to make sure you've seen that here tonight. And then under the developers, it really is CMHC is their core opportunity. And that's part of our work as staff of knowing that and seeing when there is development or developers who are interested in exploring that we can support them in that process. And then under the community housing providers, these folks are seeing funding in a way they've never seen funding before. There's so much more funding available to them. The core ones that we see in our community is what you'll hear called the CHAP, which is the Community Housing Acquisition Program. All the nonprofits will just say CHAP. They won't say that whole rigmarole of words, but that is the program that brought the youth supportive living housing for the portal and has funded other supportive living projects in our community and is currently funding a project in Kentville that is expected to open in 2024 for those 7 adult supportive living units that, if you remember, was it February? Yes, the February CAC, where we brought forward the mention of the Reaching Home funding, where that was a joint application. We'll receive dollars to support the work that we're doing, and then they receive capital dollars to purchase the unit. So that was a combination of CHAP and the Reaching Home dollars. And then furthermore, again, opportunities through CMHC. The biggest one that just opened up was seed funding, which CMHC opens every once in a while. And so that's really the startup cost. So a lot of our nonprofits are definitely looking into that. Part of showing you all of this is to help map out that this is confusing in community of who is responsible. There's so many avenues to apply for support, and it's one thing when a municipality does it versus a community housing provider. So this was just really to give context of all the players in the game out there. And if you have any particular questions around the funding, feel free. I'm happy to provide answers. I'm not necessarily a fund expert on all of them, but I've got that one-liner for you and happy to dig in a little deeper when needed. On the next page of that report, you can see the key housing and homelessness community working groups. This was really drafted when we onboarded Jeff particularly to try and get caught up of, hey, this is the work we're doing and how we show up in community. And it's another way to tell our story, so thought it would be a great opportunity to share with you as well. There's a piece that names our approach of how we really value working with nonprofits and community groups and the input that they bring and perspective and expertise that they bring to our community. And there's really 4 core community groups that staff sit on in regards to homelessness and housing. The 2 I'm really going to point out is the Coordinated Access Committee and the Homeless No More initiative. So Coordinated Access is a national program. This is rolled out in Nova Scotia through CMHA, the Canadian Mental Health Association. So this is where we see our nonprofits meet weekly on Thursdays, and they do collaborative case management with each other in that space. And then there's a larger bi-weekly meeting that staff sit on, both in Town Hall and staff from KPS as well are part of in response to what's our collective response in community or issues coming up that we want to make each other aware of. So that's a really valuable opportunity that we have here. And they recently just got a office space in Kentville because they represent Kings County and, I'm going to get this slightly wrong, maybe West Hants, Kings, and Annapolis. So the fact that they chose an office here is awesome for us, pretty central. And so the Homeless No More initiative, Kentville staff have been sitting on this since 2015. This initiative, I best describe it as a movement with a logo. Is the easiest way to describe it. It's not a standalone nonprofit in any way, but it is the moving body behind the research that's coming out on rural homelessness in partnership with Acadia. It was nonprofits, and Kentville sat on it at the time as well through our recreation department, who really started that work. And since the first rural count on homelessness in 2020, between 2020 and 2022, our nonprofits saw $2 million more in funding than they ever had before, just because they had statistics to speak to and the folks to really name the numbers that they support. So our role within the Homeless No More initiative is to help stay informed. It keeps us informed of what's happening regionally and what data is out there, as well as keep us connected to the nonprofits. And there are conversations that where we are a municipal government, we don't necessarily sit in on, because Homeless No More does do as a lot of lobbying or advocacy as well at all levels of government. So at times they might even be lobbying us. In that case, it would not be myself as the current staff member sitting on Homeless No More, but the intent is that Kentville as a community and as a municipality is part of that process. And Kings County has been part of it before as well and are interested in rejoining, and the town of Wolfville has been as well. So we're not the only municipality within that initiative. The last page of the report I won't unpack line by line. This was also part of onboarding our CAO around what is our story and how did we get here, especially around how do we get involved in more housing and homelessness projects. And I only went back as far as 2015. There's lots more representation before that, but just to name those in those recent years where we've seen ourselves involved in the work, and just some key things to point out. If you remember in 2015, the Oak Dean Park consultations, some data or statistics or commentary coming out around youth homelessness, and our community is known for doing some incredible work around the response to youth homelessness. So that points back to work that began then, and then some key repeating things is our involvement in the rural count on homelessness as well. That's my report for this evening. Happy to answer any questions that you folks have.
Alicia, thank you very much. That is a very fulsome report, and I will say that you have provided us with information that should probably sit on the corner of our desk. If you could send us those 3 tables in a Word document, so that we can actually capture them, so that when we're speaking with people, we can quickly
Yes.
give them the details.
Yes.
I would truly appreciate that. Council, do you have any questions for Alicia? All right, you did a good
Whoa,
job.
Getting off the hook. Yes, that is no problem. I will follow up with the report. I'll circulate it to folks and CC the CAO as well.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, staff reports have been presented and are part of the record of this meeting. Staff, I want to thank you very much for your reports and your attendance this meeting, or this evening. So we're going to move on right now to our unfinished business. And Alicia, I hope you're not getting too comfortable there. Our first matter of business is with regards to a staff report on wraparound services at Tiny Meadows. You will recall that at our last council meeting, one of our members requested a little bit more information on what was meant by wraparound services. And Alicia has agreed to provide us with the information. And just to be cognizant, Alicia is not the one providing these services. She is reporting on them so that as a council, we have a clearer understanding of what is meant when the folks are saying wraparound services. Alicia, floor is yours.
Great, thank you. It's a really great question. It's terminology that's used all the time in the nonprofit world and tossed around similar to how we use acronyms for things all the time and other folks may not know what we mean. So this, why I'm speaking to this tonight is there was an invitation out to a local nonprofit to speak to it. However, given that it's winter and emergency shelters are required a lot more often than regular, they just asked, they knew we had the expertise on hand to speak to it, so they asked that we answer this question so they didn't have to. And that's really coming through being connected to things like coordinated access. Like that's the intention of that process, is to offer wraparound support. So being at those tables helps us being able to answer these questions. I believe within your report you received this infographic. It's kind of purple yellow 2-pager around what is a wraparound support. So just to do the high level mentions of that, the 5 key leading things that define it, and this has really come from the federal and national approach to wraparound support, so you can find this through whether it's CMHA, the Homelessness Hub, the Canadian federal government definition of it, etc. The 5 key points that it speaks to is that it's a team-based and collaborative case management support, that it's a one-point delivery instead of a system to navigate, strength-based, so you're looking at the assets a person already has and building on that and supporting them, and a best practice. This is known as best practice for individuals with complex or multiple barriers that's influencing their experience, and that it's operated within a coordinated access approach, which is part of, if you remember the conversations and the terminology that the provincial government was using around why our area for a Tiny Meadows project in particular, it was because we already had an operational coordinated access, which then allows the organization to further offer this wraparound supports. And on that second page of what are examples of wraparound supports, it lists multiple things such as housing support workers, which we do have 2 of in our area. Our nonprofits have requested more. They've requested 2 more in our area. That's senior safety support, whether it's youth services, social work, employment, family, trusteeship. If folks in the room aren't familiar, that's if I'm not used to having a surplus of finance, I can use a trusteeship program where someone can move through my finances for me and on my behalf until I get used to it. Healthcare services, food access, it might be veteran services, navigating government or legal systems. So that's like broader opportunities of what wraparound support should be. And from what I understand through our community nonprofit is when we're talking about wraparound supports or additional wraparound supports coming with the Tiny Meadows Village, which has been historically called the Pallet Village, but in our community the name is Tiny Meadows. So I'm going to use the terminology our nonprofit wants us to use. So the wraparound supports within that would be more staff to provide that collaborative case management, which they already do through coordinated access, an on-site shelter, or what's the word? Project manager, similar to a shelter manager that they have at Oasis now. And then from what I understand through our nonprofit, there's an additional mental health supports on site, and that matches their, from what our nonprofit has shared with us, those 2 staff members on site at all times, and then you have the manager during the day, and then those other 2 are on rotation. Is that the word I'm looking for? Is how that would work. And then the wraparound support terminology is also coming through, again, that piece of coordinated access. So by bringing this community here, we have an operational coordinated access system where they are using, if you've heard any of our nonprofits use the word HIFIS before, that's a federal designed data collection point on if I'm accessing multiple services who are connected to coordinated access. Every time I go to a new service, I don't have to unload my full life experience every time and relive that trauma every time and share my story and take the time to do so also. It means that our organizations in our community already have access to that, and the folks consent to that information being part of HIFIS. It's not an automatic if you seek services. It's if you want this, if you're going to seek other services. So that's when they're saying this brings more wraparound support. From what I understand and speaking to our nonprofit is that it's bringing more staffing to participate in the coordinated access. And what we know through the provincial government's approach to this is that where they're bringing these communities, they're also, from what we understand, committing to more wraparound support. So that comes around from those examples of whether we do get those 2 additional housing support workers that our nonprofits have asked for. If we do extend the trusteeship program, I should name that our area has one of the pilot trusteeships programs through CMHA right now. It's us, Cumberland County, and I'm forgetting the other one in this moment. However, our program's been operational for a year, and if successful, it's expected to extend. So that's examples of possibilities around what more wraparound supports would look like. In terms of further details around the project location and what will be rolled out, that's expected, again, from our nonprofit and the provincial government. But from what we understand right now, when they say additional wraparound supports, it's the more staffing and the hope that in bringing in this project, it brings other opportunities within our community, and more things are happening, similar to coordinated access being physically here, which is great. I mean, we inherently know where you physically are, you end up getting wrapped in, if that's the right, I'm using wrapped a lot, into more projects. So that's an overarching answer of it. It's really, again, those 5 key points of that team-based collaborative case management, that one point of delivery that if I come to a nonprofit in our community, I automatically become connected to all the other nonprofits. So that's the intent with the Tiny Meadows as well, that if I'm housed there, I'm connected to all other supports within our community. And I think the strength-based approach is really unique, that we are not only seeing someone for their experience of homelessness or an additional life experience that they have, we're also seeing them for the full person that they are. And then it is known as a best practice because it's connected to that coordinated access system. Hopefully that answers the question. Happy to further elaborate.
Thank you very much. So Council, do you have any questions for Alicia on this matter of wraparound? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say in no way is directed towards you. This has been very frustrating. I look at the first purple page, and it's typical government word salad. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there that just sort of repeats. The second page looks very good. How do they propose to get this done when the ordinary citizen that's walking the streets now doesn't have access to this?
Mm-hmm.
And I know most of these questions, I don't, maybe you don't know the answer, maybe it's not been talked about. Is there a reason why DCS or the head of DCS, the new minister, doesn't show up in Kentville and go, I'm here to answer questions, or anyone from DCS?
Mm-hmm.
The smile on your face lets me know I mean, it's so frustrating. There are so many questions. And I've talked to so many people about this. And like I say, you know, in an ideal world, these are wonderful supports. Everyone should have access to this, but nobody does, or at least nobody does in a timely manner.
Right.
It's been, I have a friend that works at DOJ. Let's face it, if this was really about getting people in, out of the cold, off the streets, out from under the bridge, Waterville Youth Center has 6 kids there. They've got 40 staff and they have room for 140 people. If we wanted to get these folks in and safe and fed and warm, we could have done this in September. We could have done it in October. And from what my DOJ friend tells me, 6 is the most they've had there for a long time. So I don't, you know, when this stuff comes, it looks excellent. You presented it well, right? And I know that you're not the one that's responsible for this, but it's just very frustrating that they put you up as the fall guy to go, you go present, right? When everybody has questions. And I'm sure there's a few people here that have questions. Yeah, it would just be nice if the provincial department that was heading this up would show up to town and say, we're here to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I just wanted to be clear on process and how this unfolded. We didn't ask Department of Community Services to come in and speak. We asked Open Arms because they will be the operator of the facility. They had other commitments and couldn't attend. We actually offered to come and speak for Open Arms to council because there was an outstanding question, and we didn't want to see a number of months potentially go by before we got an answer. But I want to be clear that Alicia offered to come and speak for Open Arms, who would have been the operator. We didn't just volunteer to be a fall guy, just for clarity.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Maxwell?
Thank you. I don't know who to address this to, but I'm going to make some comments here. I look at these wraparound services and yes, it's a lot of, it's government speak, but I'm not willing to say that these things won't get done. I believe that we can't be skeptical about what might or might not happen until we see it in operation. Once you see the thing in operation and you don't believe that the services are there, then that's the time to be critical. But to presume that things are not going to happen before they ever get an opportunity to happen, I think is wrong. And to suggest that perhaps we should put people in jail to keep them warm is also wrong. And I see no reason for those types of comments, and I'm disappointed that they would come out in a council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you, Worship. Hi, Alicia.
Hi.
I'm just going to make a comment around that for me to hear that folks that will be residing in the Tiny Meadows will have full access to all of these amenities. I think that's important, and I'm happy to hear that. You mentioned a word, hyphus. Can you expand on that word again?
I knew this was going to happen. Let me just see it.
Councillor York probably knows.
No, I think I got it. It's housing. I need to spell it.
Oh, it's an acronym.
Yes.
Okay. I totally didn't get that.
HI, sorry, I'm so visual.
No,
Okay,
it's all right.
from what I remember, HI. It's housing insecure. Oh my gosh, now I'm on the spot and questioning my
That's
whole
okay.
brain
You
right
can-
now.
I was just curious.
HIPH?
Yeah, it's essentially, what it stands for is like housing, homelessness and housing insecure, like data
Okay.
collection system.
Okay.
Is the overarching of what it is.
Okay.
Am I getting the words correct right now? No.
No, that's okay. No, I was just looking for the basic
Yes,
premise. And
yes.
That's what it is. So there are people who are collecting this sort of data.
Yes.
And
So-
measuring it and so on and so forth.
Correct. So other provinces have been doing it for quite some time. Like Ontario's been doing it for quite a few years. For, if I understand correctly, so has BC and Alberta.
Okay.
It is getting slowly adopted in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
The provincial funding does start to require our nonprofits to use it, particularly any shelter offering provider, and that is what determines their funding and their budget for future years. But it's kind of in transition phase and a slow rollout. But some nonprofits are using it strong and well, and some others are taking their previous data collection process and trying to apply it to a new one, or bringing other folks they've supported onto the system. Gosh, it's really bothering me that I can't get all the words right there, but I will
that's okay.
follow up with that. And I do want to clarify the wraparound support piece. All those things listed are options of what wraparound supports could be.
Right.
It doesn't mean that all of those are physically on site
For sure.
at the project.
For sure.
But hopefully, a lot of what's listed on that is offered in Kings County, and so in Kentville as well. Of course, systems can be hard to navigate at times. That's why we have the nonprofit or government staff that we do to help them navigate that system.
Absolutely. So an entity like Open Arms, presumably they're getting fed this information in terms of how many more people will be required for the additional services that will be servicing the Tiny Meadows community and so on and so forth.
So what I know from our nonprofit is they're also reaching out to the other nonprofits that
Okay.
the province is partnering with to offer this in community.
Okay.
So hopefully those conversations give them more clarity, where they're all at different stages, though it's a blanket almost rollout. And if you remember, the announcement came all at once. Every project's at a different stage. Beacon House in Lower Sackville is already operational.
Okay.
So they're meeting with those folks as well, just to have conversations of what it looks like, where the province is working with the nonprofits to figure out what staffing will look like, especially where each location has a different amount of units. So that
Okay.
would change the amount of people, I would assume,
Okay.
that it would change the amount of staffing on site.
Okay, that's great. I had it written down as HYFUS, so who knows?
If you can read cursive, sometimes that's.
Yeah, homelessness, individuals, and families, that's what it was, information
Okay.
system, yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Councillor York.
Thank you.
Go
I
team.
wanted to just quickly plug that the wraparound services are already happening very, very well in the town and through town staff with like Ashley Ettinger and yourself. These wraparound services, if they're in a dedicated, specific, streamlined way, might also alleviate some of the pressures on those other portfolios that we currently have in the town. So these are not, they won't be new, like you said earlier. They won't be doing anything different than what's already happening. It will be probably more efficient, more streamlined, and will be reaching the people that need it the most. That said, I don't think there's the potential for these wraparound services to not reach all the people who may need it, regardless of whether they're Tiny Meadows residents or not. But it's very encouraging to know two things. That one, these are planned to be wraparound supports, and then secondly, we're already doing this quite well in some capacities, but we're overloaded in some of those portfolios. So I'm glad to see that there will be a sharing of these responsibilities. And I'm also glad to know that perhaps Ashley and yourself might get a little reprieve from having other people helping you with these exact supports. So this is neither a question nor a comment, but there it is.
It's all good.
All right, council, if there's no more questions for Alicia, what I would say to you is that although Tiny Meadows is not planned for the town of Kentville, it is part of our community, and we will continue to adjust and adapt and provide information as we require it. One of the things that came up again this evening is the fact that DCS did not show up to any of the community meetings or when Open Arms made those presentations. And you will recall back in November that as a council that we sent a letter to both Minister Lohr and at the time the Minister of DCS requesting more information, and we specified our questions. So I would consider a motion where CAC directs the mayor to write a letter to the new Minister of Community Services, Brendan McGuire. You will recall that we did have a relationship with Brendan when he was the Minister of Municipal Affairs and request more information on the planned Tiny Meadows and a follow-up to our letter sent in November. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So it has been moved and seconded that CAC direct the mayor to write a letter to the new Minister of Community Services, Brendan McGuire, and request more information on the planned Tiny Meadows Village and follow up on the letter sent in November. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. Did you say that there were specific questions going to be put into that letter? Because just a blanket, give us more information, isn't really specific. Do we have specific questions that we want answers to?
Councillor Maxwell, we have the questions that we asked back in November. I think it was a list of 10 questions that were very specific with regards to how this was going to roll out.
Okay, and so can we resend those as well?
Yes, yes.
In case, because he's a new minister and he may not have seen that.
Yep,
Okay.
that's part of the motion.
Thank you.
Thank you. So is there any further discussion on this? Are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC direct the mayor to write a letter to the new Minister of Community Services, Brendan McGuire, and request more information on the planned Tiny Meadows Village and follow up on the letter sent in November. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Alicia. All right, moving on to our next business arising is a staff report noting heritage elements in building permits, and Lindsay Young will present on this one.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for having me. You have a brief report in front of you. It was mostly an information gathering mission, and hopefully I've provided some clarity in here for Council and eventually the committee, but I am happy to answer any questions. I didn't have all the information needed to create the report when it was due, and I did get some subsequent information afterwards, so happy to follow up. However, the question was about reviewing and identifying any heritage elements in or on a building prior to a permit approval as part of, I believe, the standard permitting process. So our research included polling municipal units in the province, reaching out specifically to municipal units who have a heritage property bylaw, speaking with the municipal advisor, and reviewing the actual Nova Scotia Heritage Property Act itself. So the information that I found is that I couldn't identify any unit who's currently using an assessment tool as part of the standard permitting process outside of having the municipal heritage bylaw itself to govern that process. But again, happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, are there any questions? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I'm noticing here in your report that it says there does not seem to be a mechanism within the Municipal Government Act allowing a municipal unit to stop, pause, or delay the issuance of a permit. Doesn't say that that can't happen. It's saying that there is nothing within the act to stop that from happening.
Outside of the heritage bylaw being in place.
Right, and so we could do it without a heritage bylaw being in place at the moment. Could we not do it through the planning department?
I think the question, maybe, is it okay if I ask for clarification on the question?
Yes, so it says, and without the heritage property bylaw being in place.
Right.
But what that basically says is, nobody's thought of it, nobody's tried to do it, and there's nothing in the Municipal Government Act that says it can't be done. So it's something that perhaps that we could look at within our organization as being something that might be useful to try and preserve some of the things that might be inside of some homes or buildings. For example, I believe it was one of the contractors in the committee that said in some of these old homes there's some really, really expensive wood on staircases and things like that that would be worth preserving. So rather than, just letting somebody tear down the building, that we could say, could you check for that building just to make sure there's no wood, there's no glass, there's no, stained glass, there's nothing there that would be of heritage value. So it looks to me like there's no reason why we couldn't do this. It's just that it hasn't been done.
What I meant to say, and if it wasn't clear, I apologize, is that I could not find a mechanism within the Municipal Government Act that allows us to do this without having a heritage bylaw in place to first designate that property. The town, I don't believe, and I'm not a lawyer, and the municipal advisor was careful to say he was not a lawyer when I reached out to him for some advice on this. Maybe it's what you're saying, Councillor Maxwell. I can't say that it's not, because we would be the first people to do it, but I think it would be, it would definitely be a
CAO,
first.
perhaps you should.
Lindsay, can I?
Yeah.
I believe the request was to do a scan and see what already exists out there. There was no
Yeah.
discussion on creating a path, and that would involve legal and a whole bunch of other stuff if you're going to create something that doesn't already exist. But if I remember correctly, it was to do a scan of what already exists and report back to council as far as this exercise.
Thank you.
Thank you, CAO.
Question? So what does the Heritage Committee do about putting something like this in place? Because I know that that question's going to come up from the contractors and so on that are on that committee, because this is where it comes from. So I'm wondering, what do we do? How do we answer that question?
Through you, your worship, I think one of the first questions to be asked is, do you have the legal authority to do that within the framework, which is going to involve consulting a lawyer to see if there's a path forward? Admin staff wouldn't be able to provide any guidance on that.
Okay, so that would come from the committee. We would come back to CAO and request that something like that be done.
CAO.
The committee would come to council. Council would see whether they have an interest in going down that path, and then if council directed staff to go down that path, then yes, we would absolutely start to have the discussions with legal and build a framework as to whether there was a path forward to do it. But it would require consensus of council that it was a priority of council to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Zabian, I believe you are the chair of the Heritage Committee. Did you have anything that you wanted to add other than to bring this back to your committee?
No, I'll bring back what was collected, and thanks, Lindsay, for bringing that forward.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, our next matter is Becca, and stepping up for the batting cages.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, CAO, and community. I am here to present the report on the proposed batting cages at Memorial Park. The ask was from the Kentville Minor Baseball Association to the town of Kentville, and to cover 50% of the cost to construct the 3 batting cages. And that was for an estimated cost of $37,500 to the capital budget. Staff have assessed the recent investments, approximately $500,000 towards replacing the old bleachers and the upcoming replacement of the lighting systems at the senior baseball field, in addition to the imminent need to resurface 2 baseball fields in 2024 and 25 due to the recent flooding. Staff recommend that council does not approve the $37,500 allocation of capital funding, and work continues to support the Minor Baseball Association as to seeking grants, funding through grants to cover the ask on behalf of the town in the 2025-2026 fiscal.
Thank you very much, Becca, for that report. Are there any questions or comments for Becca with regards to that? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you. Just wondering, because the total cost is 75, and what the gentleman that presented said was, right now they've got corporate sponsors, or not corporate sponsors, but basically parents who have businesses for half. Will the other 37.5 still be there in the 25-26 budget?
I believe that the recommendation is to assist the Minor Baseball Association seeking funding through grants to help cover that cost. Maybe I am not understanding the question.
So they asked for half the money from the town, and they were gonna come up with half the money presently. My question is their half going to be gone because the kids have moved on to a different league, and,
I'd like to pass that on to the CAO.
okay, good.
So through you, your worship, and I can't guarantee the funds were there, but I do know that the Director of Recreation reached out to the Baseball Association, explained the situation, the commitments that were upcoming, and they were agreeable to where recreation was coming from this. They understood why, they understood the commitments that were made previously and the commitments that are required because of the floods and the lighting. So I can't speak to whether all of the funding will be there, but we did reach out to them to make sure that they were aware of where the staff report was going prior
Okay.
to.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I believe I brought this up when it was first brought to our attention. And I just want to tell people that, you know, I'm totally supportive of promoting wellness and sport and so on. I taught phys ed for 35 years, and I believe in, you know, the encouragement and promotion and support for increasing participation and enhancing skill development. But I also believe in equity, and I believe things should be equal. And in our town, there is too much division already. And as I pointed out previously, other groups have come to the town and asked for support to buy various pieces of equipment. And I don't think that even the baseball community, if we sat down and asked them, that they would expect preferential treatment over other groups as well. I believe that if we pay $37,500, half of the cost, and we make that a line item in our budget, then it needs to be a permanent line item so that any group ever coming to the town for support, for equipment, or whatever it is, gets up to and including that amount of money. Now, you'll say, well, who else might want it? We have a community cheerleading group. They use blue mats, blue gymnastics mats. I know because I've bought them before, and they are very expensive, and they might want to replace some of those mats. We have a tennis group. They may want an automatic ball feeding machine, not a cheap amount of money. We have a dancing group just across the way here. They may want a new sound system. If we're going to do for one group, we have to do for all groups. We can't be creating division within town saying this group is worthy and this group is not. And as much as I would love to give every group whatever they ask for, council needs to think very seriously about what you would do. Would you continue to create the division that has gone on in this town for years and still goes on? And so I think that the recreation director has come up with a good idea, that any group wanting the town of Kentville support would ask our recreation department to find and write a grant or grants for them, and they raise the other half of the money. That, to me, is fair and equitable. And so I just want to put that out there to my council colleagues, that it's not a simple matter of just saying, yeah, give them the batting cages. Because there's any other number of groups that once you do that, can come and ask for the very same thing, and then are you going to turn around and say, no, we're not going to give to you? Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Sorry, Becca, I was just going to say to Craig, I just want to thank him for working with the association to help with the grants and possible raising of the rest of the funds.
Thanks, I will pass that along.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor York.
Thank you, and perhaps it's through the CAO, so I apologize. The work that's happening on the grant applications, that's, I'm assuming, also happening with support from the town, and that would there also be in-kind donations listed in that grant? Don't know who to ask it to, so I'm just gonna ask you.
So I don't have a complete answer to that. I can tell you my preference is that we would work with the organizations to teach them how to write grants, that we wouldn't just become a blanket grant writing application
Yes.
team. I'm not sure which way recreation does go, but that would be my clear preference. Is the old saying is teach them how to fish rather than fishing for them. So.
And, sorry,
Thank
just
you.
to follow up.
Go ahead.
This support would be offered to anybody who asked for it, correct?
We would
Like
work.
any group that came in looking for money, if they came to us, so we knew that they were looking for money, we would offer and extend our assistance.
I think that it would depend on what the ask is and how it aligns with the priorities of the municipality. And we would work through that process in partnership with the organizations.
Thank you.
Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. And just to clarify, because this is a little bit different than some of what's been spoken about, this is capital infrastructure, so I guess, could you please ask whoever, these grants, are they going to be only for capital infrastructure, or are they gonna be, we need new belts, we need new whatever? This is, like, what they proposed was fixed, once we're gone, 10 years down the road, they're still gonna be there, not, these are, I don't know, something that's, I guess, not operational, but just day to day.
I'm not certain I understand exactly the question, but I can try to speak to
If-
how I
if-
understand
if-
it.
If we're gonna offer this service to everyone,
Yes.
does everyone have to go, is it something that has to be capital infrastructure? Which is what in the recommendation, because they were asking for funding that would have come out from the capital, side of the budget, because it was infrastructure, it wasn't a piece of equipment, it wasn't, catcher's mitts.
I can only speak to this one in particular, and I think that it would go back to the same answer of we would work with each community group that came to us individually to see how their needs fit the priorities of our municipal unit and of our capacity of our staff and budget. But in terms of this one in particular, that is capital. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, thank you. Just to clarify, anything like buying 30 blue mats would be capital. Anything like buying a ball serving machine would be capital. Anything like buying a sound system would be capital. So just because it's not cemented into the ground doesn't mean that it's not a capital cost. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, council, based on this recommendation, there is no requirement for a motion. I will remind council that the NSFM comes out with a monthly list of grants that are available, and looking at that list and sending it out to, I'll say, different organizations around town. I know that last month there was actually a grant in there from the provincial government that they were willing to pay for equipment for young people. And I did send that over to the curling club because I know that they have a youth curling league, and this would enable them to buy new brooms and new shoes for folks. So when that listing comes out, if there's anybody that you know who might be interested. The other thing as well is that Mary Claire Lake is our grants coordinator person for the NSFM, and she does have the capacity to help folks write for these grants. So we have, I'm going to say we have several angles to get to this.
Can I just
CEO?
I want to make sure that I'm accurate in what I'm saying. On this particular issue, Craig reached out to the Baseball Association, and the Baseball Association were absolutely understanding of the position that we were in with our other priorities. I don't want to say that they 100% embraced it, but they were very understanding and accepting. I don't want any miscommunications in the community. Okay.
Councillor Maxwell.
Just one quick question to the mayor. Is it possible for us to post those grants on our communications page so groups within the community can access them rather than waiting for somebody to say, oh, you might want this, here's a grant?
CEO says it's doable.
Great. Thank you.
CAO just passed it along from an individual in the audience, but yes.
We'll sort it out.
All right, that's great. Becca, I guess you're not moving since you have the next item as well, review of the Valley Racket Center proposal.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, Council, CAO, and community again for having me. Through the direction of council, staff has assessed the impact and possible options for the location of the racket facility within the town of Kentville. 2 locations were examined, Field 4, located behind the Credit Union soccer facility, Credit Union Recreation Facility, and the Oakdean Park. Staff believe that the town of Kentville would benefit from a racket facility as it is an asset for the physical activity, community health, and enhancing recreational opportunities and sport development in our community. The proposed Kentville racket facility report in council package outlines the key factors staff considered when developing the recommendation, concluding that whereas Field 4 and Oakdean Park fields are current assets in the community, and whereas the facility development on either of these sites would lead to user groups being displaced, staff do not recommend that council approve the development of a racket facility at either of these locations.
All right, thank you very much, Becca. Are there any questions for Becca with regards to this? Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. I would like to know, like, the degree to which Oakdean Park was looked at, because I had said there were 2 fields up there, 2 soccer fields, and they're not all, used continuously. They're, matter of fact, this summer they were vacant quite often. And I would just like to know how hard was Oakdean looked at? Was there a survey done to see if a facility could fit there, as well as being able to accommodate the, was it the recreation hub or whatever that you're looking at? I think there's a lot of things that would be pros for that area. It would provide lighting at Oakdean Park in the evenings, which helps with, people that want to play up in the basketball courts at night, or they want to keep the park more secure in the evening, provide more community interest in the north side of Kentville, and also it's close to the Highway 101 access. And the reason that I'm kind of pushing this is because during my lifetime, I've heard so many times coming out of town hall that no, we're not going to do anything up in Oakdean Park. It's not a safe area. We're not going to put anything up there. Residents have asked and asked and asked to have a park up there for decades and were refused. And this seems to me, unless we're going to really take a good hard look at it, it just seems to me, and it may not be, more of the same. And so I would like to ask that a good hard look is done at Oakdean. If we had one field there, it would accommodate what is listed here. So you have one group of 250 children that want to have practice there, and then that's not every single day for 24 hours a day or 12 hours a day. It's a certain amount of time, and then when that's not scheduled, then the ultimate Frisbee users and the flag football users and all those people can be scheduled onto that same facility. There's been, irrigation is going in, yes, this summer or whenever, 2024, but it's not in yet. And I think we should take a closer look at Oakdean and the advantages of it being at Oakdean before we just say, no, not in Oakdean. Too many times I've heard no. Thank you.
Thank you. CAO, did you wish to?
Thank you, Your Worship. And I did have verbal discussions with the Director of Recreation, and he had indicated that he had looked into it and that he did not see that there wouldn't, he felt there would be a significant loss to soccer, but unless Becca wants to speak to this, I think it may be better just tabled until the Director of Recreation is available. I believe we're meeting next Monday?
Yeah.
And I believe he will be back next Monday, unless you would like to provide a response.
Happy to follow your direction.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor.
Well, my question may be moot now, but I will just make a comment around So there's a section in there, these discussions, there will be more discussions with Kings County Tennis Associations and Parsons Investments. And maybe that's not something that can be expanded upon. I'm not sure, but I'm just to read that option 1 nor option 2 was an option, that hopefully the discussions that are happening between Parsons and Kings County Tennis are going to be fruitful. I know what Councillor Maxwell's saying about Oakdean Park, and I know that there weren't as many on the field 4, or sorry, there were more on the field 4. I think it was over 250 under 7 and under 4, I think it was. So just looking for a bit more information, but I think the CAO has said that we'll probably hear more information on it next Monday.
Councillor Sabian.
Thank you. Just a couple comments. When this came to us, I believe last summer or early fall, I think it was last summer. To me, it's a no-brainer. We should try to work with this group and have them in town. I'd be more than proud to see them set up here. I understand why Field 4 is probably not the best option for the town. And if Oakdean is or isn't, we'll wait and see what comes of that. But could we, just to get a list of all the town lands we have, and is there something we can try to work with this group? Because I'd really hate to lose this opportunity for the town. It's just my opinion, and hopefully we can continue working with them and figure something out. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. And again, the director will be available next Monday, and it would be better directed at him. He has been the one that has been working with the groups. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, Worship. My suggestion was going to be send it back to staff. Could we get 3 years' worth of usage for both spots, Oakdean and Soccer Field 4? Could they also come up with what they think a possible site might be? And you know, let council, you know, it's nice to have them go, A's not good, B's not good, and here's why. But can they come up with, you know, they're privy to where all the land is.
CEO.
Through your worship, again, all questions that can be asked next Monday night. The director is off on vacation all week, and I don't plan to contact him and ask him to have that material available for Monday night. But all questions that can form part of the discussion for next Monday.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much, CEO. Becca, thank you. And for council, we will just leave this hanging for our agenda on March the 18th. It will come back. So back to staff first with our questions, and then back to us on the 18th. No motion required on that one. All right, the next one we have is a staff report on the Cornwallis Street sign loan. Is Lynn?
Thank you, Council. Just for a little review, at the last meeting, Council approved the loan of the Cornwallis Street sign to the Kentville Historical Society. That's the last street sign for Cornwallis Street. With this approval, Council also asked staff to reach out to the organizers of the street renaming and reconciliation event to ask if they would be comfortable preparing a statement that would follow the sign with this lease. The members of that committee met and they discussed how strongly they are committed to reconciliation, but that they do not feel that the loan of the sign is in the spirit of reconciliation. Staff instead wrote a short note that you see in your report that could accompany the sign with this loan. So you have the report, and I'm happy to answer any other questions.
All right, thank you very much. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. The way I read this, and I think maybe I might have read it wrong, was that the street naming and reconciliation group said that they didn't agree with or didn't want to loan the sign, and they didn't want to write the bit on the plaque. Now, I don't remember that discussion coming to the group, which I chair. I would have to go back and look at that. I don't remember us discussing it thoroughly, but I certainly don't remember that group saying, and I don't know if I can find it here. that, that they didn't agree or they didn't want to loan it. That certainly would not have happened.
So
They may
this-
not have wanted to write on it,
Mm.
may not have wanted to write the little slogan, but certainly they wouldn't have said that they didn't want to loan it.
If I may, we may be talking about two different groups. One is the organizing committee of the event and not the names list or the accessibility committee. So this was the organizing group for the January 9th event that spent months reaching out to Indigenous community, and they were the reason that we saw such a fantastic outpouring of support for that initiative.
I agree.
So that was the January 9th organizing committee. So it was council that suggested they might be the best group to do that wording. Is that what you're referring to?
I guess, because I chair that committee, and we never had a discussion on it. So I don't know why it wouldn't come to the names list committee for discussion, why a task group would be charged with making that decision. It should have come directly to committee, not to a task group, in my opinion.
Through you, your worship, if you remember, the decision was a decision of council to loan the sign. It was a unanimous vote, but there was also discussion afterwards about, and I believe it came from Councillor York initially, to go to this group and ask them if they could provide the wording. We did ask the group to provide the wording. They declined. We are coming back with some wording that was drafted by staff to see if council is acceptable of that wording, and if they are, then the sign will be loaned to the Historical Society. But that was my recollection of the discussions that night and the direction of council.
That's right. That's right, but that was the task group. I mean, I might have said on the names list committee, I'll do the wording for the sign, or Councillor York might have said, I'll do the wording for the sign, but the task group only consisted of a couple of people from the main committee. So I'm thinking that probably it should have been brought to the committee, not the task group, and then come to council. And I just feel like the committee was bypassed in being part of the decision-making process. I think what staff has come up with wording is fantastic. I don't see anything wrong with it whatsoever. It's fine. But I think the proper process would have been to come to the committee, the actual committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Zabian?
Thank you. Yeah, so we're still in agreement that the sign's going to be passed on. I think the wording's great. I understand what you're saying, Councillor Maxwell, but I think at the end of the day that what I see looks good. We got to the end point there where they're going to get a message and the sign. So I'm okay with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor York?
Thank you. Just to clarify, the committee that was asked, or the task force that was asked because council voted that we asked them to do it, correct? That was part of it. That's why that group was asked specifically.
Councillor Maxwell, please.
So just to clarify, my understanding, correct? All right. Secondly, if that committee of people who works so closely with the First Nations community, with the event itself, if they have objected so strongly that they wouldn't even provide the wording, perhaps it merits a sober second thought of council as to whether or not this should be on loan. And does it go back to the committee as a whole, or not this committee rather, but the naming committee or the inclusion and access committee? Perhaps, but I would take their feedback critically.
So,
Thank you.
through you,
CEO?
your worship, at the night of the vote, there was no motion to reconsider. There was no anything else. So the direction of council should stand. If you want to take a different path because we weren't able to deliver the wording on the sign to a different angle. But there was no discussion that night about a motion to reconsider. And if you were going to reconsider a motion of council, that should have been provided and voted on that evening.
Thank you, CAO. Councillor Maxwell?
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm saying. I agree. I agree with the loan. I voted for it. I agree that was okay. And I agreed with what has been written by staff. Where I'm disputing is when it came to the task team, and I don't believe that we said, let's ask the task team if they want to do this. What I'm saying is, we have a committee called the Naming Committee, and it looks after the naming of different things, and underneath that, we have some task groups. The task group for doing the street did a fantastic job, but that group shouldn't have been the one asked if they wanted to do the name on the, the write-up on the plaque. That group shouldn't have been asked that. It should have come to the actual committee, and that's what I'm saying. I have no objection to this. My objection is to the fact that the task group was asked and not the actual committee.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. So based on the information that we have here, and staff has recommended proposed wording to accompany the Cornwallis Street sign being loaned to the Kentville Historical Society, it would move that CAC recommends approval of the recommended wording to accompany the Cornwallis Street sign being loaned to the Kentville Historical Society to council at the next council meeting on March 25th. Somebody would move that? Councillor Zabian, thank you. Second? Deputy Mayor, thank you. It's been moved and seconded that CAC recommends approval of the recommended wording to accompany the Cornwallis Street sign being loaned to the Kentville Historical Society to council at the next council meeting on March 25th. Is there any further discussion on this matter? There being no further discussion, are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC recommends approval of the recommended wording to accompany the Cornwallis Street sign being loaned to the Kentville Historical Society to council at the next council meeting on March 25th. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, this moves us on to our correspondence. We had 15 pieces of correspondence over the time period, and I will remind folks that for your correspondence to be on the next council meeting, it should be delivered to the correct addresses by Wednesday at noon. So we had 15 pieces of correspondence. 2 were with regards to the Tiny Meadows Village, and 13 with regards to stormwater management. If there's nothing further on correspondence, that moves us on to our new business. And at new business, we had a recommendation from Councillor Gerard has followed up with an RFD to engage a firm to support a stormwater management plan. Councillor Gerard, did you have anything to add to your RFD? Sorry, Deputy Mayor, were you correspondence?
Thank you.
Sorry, I'll go back.
Just, I think in view of the fact that there is quite a bit of correspondence that pertains to water drainage, stormwater management, water concerns, flooding, stormwater management, and maybe that will lead right into what Councillor Gerard was going to just talk about in the RFD, or maybe in light of the amount of correspondence that we have around those issues, that the CAO may want to make a comment around that. And if not, then that's fine.
Thank you. That'll be included with the further conversation under new business.
Okay, thank you.
And as well, we heard the report from our Director of Engineering with regards to how we will be dealing with one part of the matter, and many of the questions are with regards to excess water coming to West Main Street, which he has also addressed in his, and we have this RFD, and then the CAO will speak to that. So, Councillor Gerard, back to you under new business. Did you have anything to add to the RFD that you have included?
So I do, like I have several reports that we all have access to from 1989, 2003. This one was sent by a resident to all of council. But one came forward, and actually it was handed to me from another councillor this evening, which is a stormwater master plan request for proposal from 2010. And, you know, you can read my RFD, and I don't wanna say I'm passionate about it, cause that's, but when I say I'm nervous about development in the next 10, 15, 20 years, all being on the South Hill leading down into Kentville without the proper, so when we go forward with these studies, and projects, I think we should also have policies, because I don't know whether the rest of council is sick and tired of getting calls from residents who say, I called the town, and, you know, and I know it's town policy, so it's not the folks that are sitting in the front row. It's not them. It's us, because we're the ones that direct policy. And it's previous us who didn't do the stormwater master plan in 2010, didn't send out the RFP, and didn't listen to this study and this study. I went back on Department of the Environment to 1905. We're not getting any more rain year over year over year over year than we were back then. But we need to have policy so that when someone does call and they say, you know what, I got water in my basement, we can direct them on how to go about not remedying it right away, but where the accountability should be. The town, for however many years, has just said, it's got nothing to do with us. Well, it's gone through our system. We have to, in my prerogative, we have to maintain our systems so they don't get overrun. Because so look at the study that Director Bell provided us, and actually CAO Lawrence provided us last week. The study, number one, says I'm nervous about going all the way down. But it's I don't know how to word this. I'm very nervous about what's gonna happen down the road from beyond McDougall Heights over here, the 27 acres that was sold, and now is zoned R3, R5, which will be a beautiful development. But we don't have infrastructure on these Overlook and Spring Garden and streets like that. You look at what the study provided and you go 2019, when it was brought to us that we have an issue and this is gonna fix the issue, and people are gonna it's gonna fix the issue. So not only did we do something that didn't fix the issue, but we broke it into two, knowing full well that the following year we were gonna change water and sewer. So we tore the street up, we put a pipe in, knowing that the next year we were tearing the street up again to put water and sewer. And turn around 4 years, 5 years ahead, and now we've got to tear the street up, and further down. I would like to see, along with studies, policies, that everybody in this room can have an answer when they call and say, here's what's happened. And also, when it comes to developers, Kentville's small enough that we can have boots on the ground, so when something's being built, we couldn't previous because we didn't have the staff. But hopefully we can send someone out to the project and go, everything's right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. CAO, did you wish to address this RFD?
Thank you, Your Worship, and yes, in a couple of different sections. I think in my interview process, we talked about not spending too much time looking backwards at things we cannot change, but let's put our efforts into moving forwards and how we deal with issues. I've talked to Director Bell. I don't think administration is against the development of a stormwater master plan. Proper process would be we would bring some information back to council for April, which is still in line with our operational budget. This would be an operational cost because it's not tied to any specific project. And then council can make a determination as part of the operating budget process, if there's something that they would like to go through. Any system that you design will only be to a certain level, whether it's 1 in 25 flood, whether it's 1 in 50. And I do believe that what would have once been 1 in 100 is probably closer today to 1 in 5 or 1 in 10. But we are, I don't know how to say this any different than how I say it, we are where we are today. We have no issue as far as administration goes, bringing back information to the April CAC and what will be involved in a stormwater master plan, and also a synopsis of some of the studies going back to 1988, 89 that have been done to date, and then council can give consideration as part of the operating budget as to whether they want to proceed with it. Is that in agreement with what council would like to see?
All right, CAO, thank you for that recommendation to the RFD. And if we take your recommendation and turn it into a motion, is that CAC direct the CAO to review the RFD and provide a stormwater master plan recommendation to council at the April CAC meeting?
So moved.
Deputy Mayor, thank you for the second. Councillor Zabian, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that CAC direct the CAO to review the RFD and provide a stormwater master plan recommendation to council at the April CAC meeting. Discussion on this matter? Councillor Gerard.
Thank you, and it was lit earlier, and it wasn't lit for a discussion on this, but it was lit for, because sometimes I'm not clear. The RFD was not a moving backwards, and if it was taken that way, it was not, it was the people, not these 6 people, but the people who sit in these chairs, if you want to go backwards on anyone.
Through you, Your Worship.
Go ahead.
I didn't take it that way. We are we now. So I am the
Yep.
CAO. So everything that's happened for the last 50 years sits here with me as it does with council. Us trying to relitigate how we got here doesn't serve us well. Being open to how we're going to plot our path forward does serve us well. So I didn't take it that way. I want it to be consistent, and let's build for tomorrow and learn from what may have happened yesterday, but not continue to revisit it or rehash it. Okay.
Thank you, CAO. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through the chair to the CAO. Might April be a bit soon? It just sounds like it's probably quite a process to go through. I'm just thinking that it, and if it isn't, then that's great, but if it is.
So I'll look to Director Bell. It's past almost past my 3-hour window, and after I get by my 3-hour window, I tend to go downstairs. But this is a priority. This is a priority for council. We are moving into April operational budget time, and so if you were to consider it for this year, it has to be looked at. But Director Bell, is that something that we can undertake and deliver on? Yeah. So it'll be aggressive, but if we're going to do it as part of this year's budget, we have to meet those timelines.
Thank you. We all appreciate it. That's all I have.
I can't shut you off.
Well.
You try. Okay,
It's stuck on our screen.
okay. I'm completely lost here. Okay, we're still in motion. Discussion is finished. Are you ready for the question? The question is that CAC direct the CAO to review the RFD and provide a stormwater master plan recommendation to council at the April CAC meeting.
Now none of our,
Oh, no.
bad news. None of our buttons work.
It's tired.
Yeah, it's also hit its 3 hours.
Okay, well then,
Actually, you can still do the vote, and then
okay,
the mayor will, so.
I'll look at your
open.
screen.
So the vote is now open.
Okay. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Huntley, you haven't voted yet. Paula, Deputy Huntley, you're good? Deputy Huntley. Councillor Huntley. Deputy Mayor, you're good? Okay, voting is now closed. And the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
All right, so we are now at public comment, and members of the public are invited to speak to council on any agenda item. You will be provided with 3 minutes, and I will hold you to 3 minutes tonight. As you see, we have quite a
water management. And I just came alive, so I'll stop yelling at you. This must serve as an indication that not only are residents of this town concerned, but they are scared of what may come in terms of volumes of water, property values, and safety of human lives, as we were all reminded that no one in this province is immune to the tragic loss of lives where water is a factor this past summer. I hope you can appreciate why I have misgivings trusting a report that is written by the same engineering company that is also working with the developer who wishes to build many living units on the South Hill of Kentville. Our family was greatly impacted in March of 2003. At the time, our 5-year-old and our 3-year-old children were unable to return to their beds, have access to their family pet, their toys, their home. While many things contributed to that disaster, such as melting snow, heavy rainfall, power outages, there was a comprehensive study conducted by the town of Kentville, hired engineers, Hiltz and Simone, who put forward recommendations, some of which have been completed, albeit it took several years for some of those recommendations to be done. I can't help but wonder how much time it will take to implement stormwater mitigation solutions, or will time run out before climate change and housing developments create too much water for us to handle. We have heard tonight that no new water will be directed to our street. This is great news, but it will reach the railway ditch faster and with more volume in a bigger pipe. I have also heard that the town of Kentville owns 2 submersible pumps, which are kept in a pumping chamber behind the Shanex property. The pump that was out of commission was returned in January and not working for the September 16th Hurricane Lee. In fact, September 14th saw the most recent flooding of our street, so the pump wasn't even available to do its job for about 5 months. When the pumps are working, I am wondering what triggers them to be turned on. Often, it is street residents consistently needing to hunt down public works staff to ask for those pumps to be turned on. Why do we have to be the ones to initiate when to turn those pumps on? How is that done? Can the pumps be turned on remotely? As often, the head of West Main Street, where the big culvert is, that the grate is now up, at times, that water gets so deep that vehicles, including public works vehicles and emergency vehicles, can't or shouldn't drive through it. Perhaps a release of the emergency measure plan would allow residents of West Main to understand that information, and perhaps we can take some comfort in that. I have brought with me tonight my organized photos along with my backpack containing every piece of correspondence regarding the 2003 flood that I had my name on. I keep it in a backpack, not because, I don't know, it's pretty, but because I literally had no home to keep all of that correspondence in when we were out of our house. We were out for 9 months, and I bumped those kids around into 9 different locations during that time. I don't keep those things as mementos for pleasure. I keep them as a reminder that we have to be vigilant and raise our voices when we have concerns. I have concerns, hear my voice.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Mike McLean. I live on West Main Street along with a few other people here. I won't go into as much detail as Krista did because she covered much of the information and she lived there during the 2003 flood. What I'd like to highlight, at least from my perspective, and I think I alluded to it in the correspondence that you have. A couple of statements. One is that no new water will be coming down into that ditch. And I don't want to have an engineering discussion because I'm a bean counter. The engineer knows better than me. But water coming at a faster rate will certainly increase the volume that gets to that ditch. And it is the backup of that water that creates the issue. It's not hard for us to tell on the street. Rainwater is clear. As soon as the ditch backs up and the pump's not turned on, for whatever reason, silt water comes into the backyards. I've had it to the base of my house. And we have deep backyards. They're not short backyards. So that's a huge volume of water. So I have concerns that as you improve the condensate situation, the issue is you move the bottleneck down to our street. Until the pumping into the river system and the ability to manage the water at the bottom of the hill is solved, fixing Condon just moves the problem to us at a faster rate. To the idea that there's no more rain than we used to have, it may be rain is now spread over shorter periods of time and more intensity. And I am familiar with the topic through my previous employment. The storms create water at a faster rate. The faster it gets to the bottom of the hill without the ability to get it out of the system, we live that experience. And that's about all I could say for now. I'm sure there's others that are going to speak.
Thank you.
And another resident of West Main Street, been there 42 years,
Your name, please?
Bill Connell.
Thank you.
During 2003, the report that was done, I have the written report, I didn't bring it like Krista did, but I have a copy of it. One of the recommendations was McDougall Heights, Palmer's, before they done any more development there was to be holding ponds considered at that point in time. There was not one holding pond put in there through that full development, not one. So that's why your water is rushing down Condon Street, because it's not been held back and not done what it was supposed to do. I know this council is not, and we're not in there at that point in time. But how can we believe you guys now, oh yeah, you're gonna hold that water back? The last council done a few things to make it look good, but never done the things that needed to be done. This year, we've had water in our backyard, I think 3 times. And every time, like Krista says, you gotta call the town. Gotta get the pump turned on, gotta get the pump turned on. Not only that, the lift station at the end of the street, that shuts down. Sewer backs up. What happens then? These older houses, sewer backs up, sewer fills up, that water runs in around your pipe and fills your basement full of sewage. You don't have to ask me, I know. So, my question is there room in the existing developments to put holding ponds to negate some of this water? They should have been put there when they were built, not now. But is there room up there to do that? If there is, it should be definitely looked at. Because doing further up, that's only gonna fix the problem from further up. That's not gonna fix the problem that we have right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dion Davidson, 280 Park Street. I'm very encouraged to hear about Councillor Gerard's trying to get a storm water master plan through, and I'm not sure I exactly understand what just happened, but it sounded positive that it was going to be considered at least. You know, I won't go through a lot of detail. I know you can't relitigate the past. I guess just 2 points. You've had up to now in the last several years piecemeal projects and piecemeal studies. So I just want to plead with you to please, whatever master plan is approved or RFP is sent out, to make it for, of course, the entire town of Kentville, as should have been done 20 years ago. And then secondly, to consider that you probably can't have the same engineers that have been involved for the last 20 years, whether it be with private companies or otherwise, in a new master plan. You need to have a third-party comprehensive plan, arm's reach, that can look at the town of Kentville with a new set of eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Nicholson, West Main Street. I was, been there 30 years. I was there for the flood in 2003. There's been a lot of good things done, I think, or some good things done. But once again, it's just piecemeal stuff. It's, we'll do this now, maybe that'll appease them. We'll do this, maybe it'll appease them. Some of those things have helped with the water issue we have on our street. But there has to be some kind of a policy put together for what's going to happen when a storm's coming, when a hurricane's coming. We know that we're going to get this much rain. What is the policy the town has to get prepared and ready for that? You know, when you see water coming into your yard, and you know there's a pump at the end of the street, but the pump doesn't get turned on. It's ridiculous. You know, that can happen once, fine. Twice, what's going on? But it's multiple times now, right? Multiple times. The study back in 2003 talks about net zero development. Why are we getting all this water? Why is all this water coming down Condon? There must have been development done. So where are the retention ponds the policy talks about? Why have the retention ponds not put in place? You know, this is another question. Why are these things not being put in place? We know there's been engineer reports about them. This needs to be done to remedy West Main Street. People on West Main Street are tired of our properties being in the retention ponds, because that's basically what they are. Going through 30 years of, you know, waiting around, calling people when you're not at home. Can you go check my property? Is there any flooding coming? Is there water coming into the yards? It gets very, you know, it's very, very tiresome. The town needs to get a study done, get some storm drainage, a policy put in place. And in particular, a policy put in place for different areas in the town. This is what we're going to do, you know, this is what should be done at West Main Street, Park Street, wherever else in town that might need to be done. I'm glad to hear, in my world, I prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Now, with regards to the pumps, I'm super glad, finally, that we've got our pump back in place, and another pump, because I know in my house, I got sump pumps in my basement, and I have backups. In case one fails, I got a backup to put in. Why haven't we had a backup in the past? I'm glad to hear we should get that third pump ASAP. So that if one fails, we have a backup. It can be put in. Not, okay, we got 2 pumps, one fails, we got one. Well, if it works, that's great. But the other one's getting repaired. It was getting repaired for months. We should have 3 pumps. So that if one fails, we have one to put in, send the other one away for repair. Then if another one fails, we still have at least one pump to pump the water. This should have been done years ago. Everybody on West Main Street is tired of waiting and waiting and waiting for these things to be done. I'm super glad to hear that we're talking about getting a storm management plan. But we, as a town, we have to start developing policies so that these things that have failed over the years, the pumps not being turned on, for example, that should not happen. It should never happen again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Ron Cousins. I own some land up there where all the water's coming from. And we don't know where the holding ponds are gonna go. Hopefully you'll put them on town land, but I don't want them on my land. I got two pipelines going through there now, and it had 2 power lines. They took the power lines out, but they didn't take them out for my benefit. So I'm not giving up any more of my land, so I'm just saying that I don't want it on my land, and hopefully you'll put it on the town land. You own land up there, so you put it on your own land. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, council, mayor, and community members. My name is Spencer Lang, and I am a resident of West Main Street. I've been a resident all 26 years of my life, save for 4 years when I went away to university, and 9 months when I was living in multiple homes in multiple townships in Kings County while we were forced out of our home due to floodwaters. I was 5 and I turned 6 in those 9 months. We were separated from our home, from my things, and while things are not important and can be replaced, to a 5-year-old child, they can mean the world. I urge council to have a third-party, distanced person and company look at the remediation process. You yourselves this evening heard that we are unable to help the Kentville Baseball Association get their 3 batting cages because we have to spend money on remediation of flood damage to our baseball fields. When we as a town are having to spend that money that someone has asked for on damage to our town that is potentially avoidable, it is something that I urge council to look for. And again, a third party is needed, not the same company that works with the current developer. I urge council to take these measures into heart and into consideration moving forward into the April CAC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Bunny Bennett, Condon Avenue. I've been up at this table before, always about the same thing, which is stormwater. We have been flooded multiple times on my once little quiet street, Condon Avenue. I was really optimistic, Dave, when you sent me that report. I was happy to think that something could be happening. I think what's really going to help me is a holding pond. I also am hoping that if the nice large pipe that got put in my street recently, if it goes into Councillor Gerard's front lawn, and if it's the same size, I think that will help the silt and rock buildup as it comes out down the stream at the end of our street, goes roaring down there. I called you the last time, right, and said, you should see the geyser coming up on your front lawn, like it was that high. Well, as a result, all these rocks and silt backed up the whole length of my street. Don't get me wrong, I'm really thankful for those large vacuum truck. But man, oh man, 5 weeks of listening to that thing outside your yard was excruciating, but it worked. And I was very, very grateful that the last 3 or 4 rains, water doesn't seem to come up the top. It's been gentle enough that it's going down, right? So I'm really happy about that, and I think that I agree with everything that everyone has been saying here tonight, completely. In 2019, when we had the really bad flood, it was very, very scary. I personally don't get water in my house. All my neighbors, and Cyril White I don't think does, but everyone across the street on the downslope, especially Janet, was awful to her and to many others whose basements were flooded. And I felt very grateful, but I felt terrible for them. The problem was, which was really awful, is that we couldn't find anything out. There was such a poor lack of communicating information to us, like what's happening, where is somebody? One bad flood we had, CIO Phillips came to our house, it was at night, came on the street, he went door to door to door. We all knew and we felt reassured that the town knew that something was happening. They knew about us and we felt valued. The last time Eventually, people came to see us, but at the beginning, we had no clue. I have always been fortunate in dealing with Mr. Bell and other people at the town that I seem to get replies. However, I have heard of many, many others who have not. They've left phone messages, they've written emails, and we're scared to death. We've got water flowing through our houses. So I am wondering, going forward with this recommendation, whatever you decide on, could there be a better line of communication to keep us more informed as citizens? As this goes forward, could something be put on your town webpage? Could it be put on Friends of Kentville, alerting us the town has made a decision on this is going to happen, this is going to happen, instead of us all in our houses? And this is where we get angry when we can't find out information. It's not that, I'm not mad at you guys personally, I'm just mad that we can't be valued and to be given information, and we should. Our houses are being damaged, you know? So I'm just hoping that going forward, there can be a better line of communication with the citizens who are affected. And that's my main concern, is that I'd like to know what's going on. I'd like to know this recommendation, is it going to be adapted? What happens now? Are you guys all going to get together, put your heads together and vote on this? Is this going forward? Are we getting another outside party? I think we all deserve to know this because we're taxpayers and we're affected by it. I'm on Condon, which is affected, but I know Dr. Davison and many other properties, West Main, everyone is very much affected by this. And there's other parts of the town also they get flooded. But Condon Avenue seems to be the hub, right now, and the other parts out to our west, right? So I'm just saying, please have better communication with us. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much for those comments. We have no in-camera this evening, so there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned, and the time is 9:29. Thank you very much.